He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There's only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more. Get it right. No.
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up.
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
Play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Yay!
Man. Can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was. You're a never was.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, as you know. This is a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouths, ladies and gentlemen. And how do you do that? All you have to do is go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Every single week, you check out our lineups as we have shows like Game On, obviously the Sports Loudmouth. We have the Wise Guys. We have the Herd. So tune in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network every single week. Speeder, what's up, man?
I had a fun weekend with some of my alumni from my my college radio station. A lot of new guys as well that I met for the first time, too, that are in the local radio. Had some very interesting stories, including one that was prank calling the mayor back in the day.
Build me up, Buttercup.
Yes, that actually was the official a cappella song of our high school. That's our high school a cappella.
You can't sing, so I'm not going to ask you to sing.
I didn't say me. I wasn't a singer. No, I wasn't a singer.
I'm not a singer either. I think I would scare people away if I actually sing a song. So.
But no, it's funny. They always sing that song every year too. But yeah, I had a good time, and also in a more presently more important term, got my computer back finally.
There you go, and it works, right?
It works very well.
Finally, Speedy has a working computer here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Everybody applaud. Speedy actually has a working computer. If you're in the studio, the computers work perfectly. But anytime Speedy actually takes his computer home, for some reason, it just breaks down. Every single time, Speedy. Am I right or wrong here?
Well, this one was a random one. It was the screen went black, but luckily it was a minor thing. Nothing that was a interior thing.
Do you like when things go black, Speedy?
Not when it comes to technology.
How about when you go into a room with a bunch of people and you're hanging out and the TV just pops off? How about that? And it's completely dark. You're with a bunch of women. Are you enjoying yourself when it's black?
No, I'd be suspicious, but...
Suspicious of what? If 3 women in the room with you and it just gets pitch black, tell me.
Yeah, it could be some kind of prank. I don't know.
A prank? You
Possibly.
wouldn't enjoy being in
I
a
don't
room
know.
with...
I don't know. It depends on the context, but I don't know if I don't know.
3 women. No TV, no lights, dark.
Right.
Just you and those 3 women. And all you can think about is somebody pranking you?
Well, I don't know what the scenario is. Like, am I hostage? Am I trying to find my way out? Is it something
a hostage?
I just have to find something in the room. Like,
hold on one second. So you think if somebody obviously turns off the lights and the TV pops off, you're a hostage with 3 women in the room?
Maybe. I don't know.
Come on, man. Speedy.
If
you're in a room with 3 women, you should be happy you're in the dark with 3 women. That's just my opinion. Anyways,
again, I don't know the context.
Anyways, what do you mean you don't know the context? Just think about it.
I'm in a dark room.
You're in a dark room with 3 women.
And what's the objective?
The objective. Well, think about it. What the objective is. Think about it.
Is it a scavenger hunt? Is it a contest? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
You're gonna have a scavenger hunt with 3 women
in the dark? I don't know. By the way, I just got a text from Chaz. Les Parlay will be joining us tonight, actually. Wes and GMF, John from GMF Sports will be on at 8:30.
Awesome. At 9 o'clock, we'll be talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio host Greg Larnerd. He's been on our show before. He's fantastic. We're very excited to have him on the show again. At 9:30, we'll be talking to former Giants and guard. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we've had him on the show before. Rich Seubert. Right? We had him on the show?
We have not had him on the show.
I thought we had Rich
No,
on
we
the
did
show.
not.
Well, this will be the first for Rich. Reports say that Aaron Rodgers could return this season if the Jets make the playoffs. You heard the if. I don't know if that's going to sell, ladies and gentlemen. Saquon Barkley suffers a right ankle injury in week 2 versus the Cardinals. He could be out for 3 weeks now. As we've heard Mr. Coach come out and say that he could play this week. What is he, on drugs? Yeah. I have no idea what he's talking. Dable is, I don't know what he's smoking, and whatever he's smoking, please give me some of that. I want it. Nick Chubb tears multiple ligaments in his knee, and he will miss the rest of the season, and it could be career-ending, by the way. So it was a horrible, horrible injury. I don't know if it was intentional, but a lot of people believe it was. So I'm sure the NFL will look into it. It was a terrible, terrible injury. Could the Knicks make a trade for Giannis this season? Stories coming out that he's not happy in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has done nothing this offseason, and Giannis was not very happy about no moves. So very interesting story. We will move forward as the season moves forward. So it's going to be fun watching what's going to happen to Giannis throughout the season. James Dolan says that he doesn't really like owning sports teams. Boo-hoo. The Knicks are worth $7 billion. The Rangers are worth $4 billion. Sell both those teams, sell Madison Square Garden, and every Knicks fan and every Ranger fan will be happy. I don't know why James Dolan is speaking. It just makes him look stupid. That's just my opinion on
Even more stupid than he already is.
I don't know. I don't know why he's speaking. Shohei Ohtani gets surgery, but not Tommy John surgery, and his doctor says that he will not pitch this coming season. He can only hit. Bracket wars tonight. The number 1 seed, Martin Brodeur, versus the number 1 seed, Mariano Rivera. And as everybody knows, let's parlay at 8:30. So let's get into it with the Aaron Rodgers story because it's been a huge one. Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show. He was speaking about he wants to make history. He wants to show everybody that he can come back from an injury like this and still be at the top of his game. He doesn't care that he's 39 years old. He don't care if he's 45 years old. He believes that he can still play the game at a high level. ESPN told sources say from ESPN that there are possibilities that Aaron Rodgers could return this season during the playoffs. Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show on Friday, give me your doubts. Give me your anything. Give me whatever you believe that I am, and I will come back. Cam Akers and Brandon Graham are 2 players that have come back from Achilles injuries in less than a year recently. They both don't look very good, by the way. Yeah. The same doctors Rodgers got the surgeries from is the same ones that Kobe Bryant had surgery from in 2013. Kobe returned in 8 months. Robert Saleh says the team will stick with Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback, but could bring in a veteran quarterback during the season. So I will believe this, and I think everybody would believe this, that Zach Wilson, unless he completely screws up, will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets this year. Is Aaron Rodgers coming back? I'm sure Aaron Rodgers wants everybody to believe that he is coming back this year. And I have a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers. For everybody that doubts this guy, speaks badly about this guy, not even on the field, but off the field. This guy has been attacked, not only from people that have said that he's not a good family man, he doesn't get along with his family, and that had a lot to do with his girlfriend. And I'm not going to mention any names. There were quite a few players over the last couple of years that are on sports radio shows now that still don't speak highly of Aaron Rodgers. But what we do know is we've had a bunch of his ex-teammates on this show. And everyone, every single one of them that have been on this show says not only is he a good teammate, he's a great person on and off the field. Now, I don't know how bad this Achilles tear was. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers is making an attempt to come back this year. And that's what makes Aaron Rodgers special. Because most quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford being one of them, if Matthew Stafford teared his Achilles early this season, he knew and he would tell you that his season is over. Kirk Cousins, he tears his Achilles. In the beginning of the season, he would tell you this season is over. There are very few players in NFL history with bad injuries, superstar players that try to push their way back, not only for their teammates, but for themselves. Tom Brady, when he tore his ACL years ago, was trying to get back on the field. Trying that season, if the Patriots made the playoffs, which they missed the playoffs with 11 wins.
With a tiebreaker.
Tom Brady tried to come back. Peyton Manning for years had neck problems. Came back year after year after year until his neck couldn't handle it anymore. Then he had to have surgery. Then there was a whole accusations of steroids and HGH. Then he was obviously traded to the Broncos. And then he won a Super Bowl at the end of his career. When you look at star quarterbacks at their ages, like Aaron Rodgers, 39, 40 years old, you usually, when you see an injury like this, you usually say it's season ending and career ending. And after having all the fans, having those Hard Knocks cameras follow him around, everything that we saw this offseason, his growth with the team, leadership, pulling players on the side, telling them that they're going to be taken out to lunch and sit with him, get to know him as a player, not just as a captain, not just as a leader, but as a person. That shows you that Aaron Rodgers was all about the team. It was never about himself. He wanted to be traded to the Jets because he saw that this team had something. And he wanted to bring something to this team, to this organization that they haven't felt in 53 years.
And again, you look at somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who always has been playing hurt a lot in his career in Green Bay, too. Obviously, besides the 2017 season when he tore his collarbone, every other time that he was dealing with some kind of injury, he fought hard really to come back. Think about 2013 for a second. 2013, the Packers were 6-8 or something at the end of the season. Aaron Rodgers comes back at the end of the season. They steal the playoff berth from the Bears on that big throw to Randall Cobb. But even before that, too, in his second season in the league, I think the year before they won the Super Bowl, he was dealing with a lot of injuries that year, too. So it shows you that Rodgers is a lot more of a team player than these other random players like to say that he wasn't, like Greg Jennings and Finley, like we've talked about, and a couple other guys that haven't played for the Packers that think Aaron Rodgers is not the teammate that he's presented out to be. As far as the injury itself, yeah, it's definitely possible with those kinds of recoveries too. Now, obviously, it's different for somebody like that compared to Cam Akers, who's a younger running back, but Brandon Graham's an older player too. Brandon Graham's about 34 years old too, and he came back in 8 months and plays a position that takes a lot more strain on your body with the defensive line.
Carl, I see that you said, didn't Matthew Stafford play with a broken rib? Yes, he did. But playing with broken ribs is different than playing with a torn Achilles or a torn ACL. There was one quarterback that played with a torn ACL, and that was Phillip Rivers in the playoffs, if you remember, for the Chargers. And they lost against the Baltimore Ravens that year. Joe Flacco's Baltimore Ravens. So there are quarterbacks over the years that have played with career or maybe even season-ending injuries and have gone through a certain amount of games to get to that position. But this wasn't a playoff game. This was the first game of the season, 4 plays in. Aaron Rodgers was not going to play with a torn Achilles in the first game, going through the first game of the season. It wasn't going to happen. But again, you're right. There are quarterbacks that take beatings. And I mentioned Matthew Stafford. But if Matthew Stafford tore his Achilles, he would not be playing.
Right.
And he would tell you the season is over for him. And right now, Matthew Stafford, no matter how well the Rams are playing right now, and they are playing well, believe it or not, even without Cooper Kupp, they're playing great football right now. I am telling you right now, Matthew Stafford does not want to be there. He doesn't want to play with a young team. He wants to win Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford is 34 years old. He's not getting any younger. He's on his final year of his contract. Who is going to give Matthew Stafford an extension next year? He'll be 35 years old. If he has a good season, there might be a veteran team that will bring him in as the starter or the backup to their rookie starter in case their rookie starter gets hurt. Aaron Rodgers was everything to the New York Jets this year. And now that Zach Wilson could be the starter for the rest of the season, everybody's going to itch their head throughout the season. And one of the main reasons why they're going to itch their head because we've seen what Zach Wilson has done. We've seen what Zach Wilson has done the last 2 seasons, and he is choked week in and week out. And now he's going into week 3 against the New England Patriots, and Bill Belichick and everybody sitting here today would probably pick the Patriots to win the game. Why? Because Zach Wilson, in the 4 games that we've seen against Bill Belichick, just got rumped.
Carl says, at least Rodgers made it through more plays than Abe Lincoln. No Frankie Caniglio. Tim Tebow just got cut as a tight end by Urban Meyer, who might be the worst coach in NFL history right now. And if that is the case, there's no way he's coming back to the league. Michael Vick, I don't know where he is now. He's probably, I think he's an analyst for college football. Ben also mentioned about Cam Akers. Yes, you mentioned this at the start of before the show. Akers traded to the Minnesota Vikings. The Rams.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
We'll swap 2026 late round picks as part of the deal as well.
I don't like the move for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't, because Cam Akers has not been the same running back since his Achilles. He has not been the same the running back, and that's why Williams took the job from him. Because if Akers was the same running back he was over the last 2 or 3 seasons, well, really 2 seasons before his Achilles tear, he'd probably be the starting running back right now for the LA Rams.
I think what the Vikings are ending up banking on is the fact that, he's done well in the playoffs for the Rams in years that Jared Goff has been bad, or the year Jared Goff got hurt.
Why don't you go after Kareem Hunt? You saw the Browns do that. The Browns gave him a 4-year, 1-year extension after losing Bradley Chubb. And by the way, not Bradley Chubb, I'm sorry, Nick Chubb. And we will get into that in just a few moments because it was a horrible, horrible injury. And that's why they didn't even replay it on ESPN, because it was that disgusting. And they didn't even put it on Twitter. They will not allow that video on Twitter. It was that bad. And I feel bad for Nick Chubb, but we'll get into that in just a few moments. Getting back to the Aaron Rodgers thing, you sit back and you wonder, can Aaron Rodgers come back this year with an injury like that? That's the question. And a lot of people and a lot of experts and doctors say it's impossible. How could a quarterback who is 39 years old, heal in 5 months and be ready if the Jets make the playoffs in the 6th month and play a full game of football? It's almost impossible. That's what I have read. At least 3 doctors on Twitter, or X, whatever they call it. They have all said there is no way Aaron Rodgers comes back this year. No way. It would be so impressive if he even steps on the field again this year. And that's not even in game form. If he steps on the field with a headset on his head, okay? That's how bad the injury was. But again, if Aaron believes he can do it, if Aaron believes he can get back on the field and do the things that Aaron does best, then let him believe that. I just don't believe it's going to happen. And if I was a Jet fan, which I am, I wouldn't be excited knowing that I am going to depend on Zach Wilson week in and week out. Now, by the way, we will get into week 2 and we'll go through all the games and our thoughts in every single one of those games. And we will talk about the Jets and what we thought about the Jets game. But it didn't look good. The Jets couldn't run the ball. and obviously couldn't throw the ball because there was too much pressure for Micah Parsons. But Aaron Rodgers coming back, it is a story. It will be a story throughout the season because Pat McAfee will have him on every single Tuesday, and he'll talk about how his leg is healing, that he's ready to train with the team and go back and travel with the team. Aaron came out and said that he can't wait. It's going to be a couple of weeks, but he can't wait to go back to the facilities and train back with the fellas. But that could take 5-6 weeks. By the time he even goes back to the training facilities of the New York Jets, it could be week 8, week 9. The Jets could be completely out of the playoffs.
And that's what the risk comes with this playoff scenario, too. Like, even if the Jets do squeak in, are you going to rush him back just for that, just to have him potentially get hurt again, too? The Jets have to be in good standing, maybe not as a division winner, but at least as a good, quality wild card team that says we're just a quarterback away, too.
Saquon Barkley suffers a right ankle injury. Not surprised, and obviously the Giants are not surprised either.
Yeah, same ankle he injured 4 years ago.
I just think it's a silly. It's just, I'm not making fun of Saquon Barkley. I would never do that. I'm not that type of person. I love Saquon. I think he's a fantastic talent. But come on, guys. If you read this story, it should not make you happy. Saquon Barkley suffers a right ankle injury at the end of the Giants game in week 2 matchup versus the Cardinals. Initially, x-rays were negative for a major injury, and the Giants don't believe they'll have a place for him on the injured reserve list. ESPN reports they don't believe Saquon has a high ankle sprain and only expects him to miss 3 weeks. Only expects him to miss 3 weeks. Oh, it's not a lot. It is unlikely that Saquon plays tomorrow versus the 49ers, although Brian Daboll hasn't officially ruled him out. Saquon sprained that ankle in 2019, causing him to miss over a month during the season. The Giants' next 3 games after the 49ers are at home. The 49ers are home. They verse the Seahawks and then on the road back-to-back against the Dolphins and the Bills. Saquon Barkley is the Giants' offense. He has been the Giants' offense for years. Now, he hasn't been healthy for years, and he's been in the league for 4. He's had 2 really good seasons and 2 other seasons that he wasn't healthy. But when he is on the field, this man is as good as any running back in the NFL. And with all the incentives the Giants gave him so he can reach that $14 million mark after missing or could miss 3 games against the 49ers, the Seahawks, and possibly the Dolphins, there's no way he's going to hit those incentives. No way. And the Giants, who are they going to depend on for the next 3 weeks? Jalen Hyatt? Darren Waller, who can't stay healthy? Mm-hmm. Who are they going to depend on when the going gets tough? And don't tell me it's Breida, okay? They had a chance to go after Kareem Hunt. There were a lot of teams that had a chance to go after Kareem Hunt. Why don't you go after Leonard Fournette? He's still available. He's a quality running back. You need something in the backfield. If you expect to beat teams like the 49ers or even the Seahawks, or definitely the Dolphins, you cannot be a one-dimensional team. And with Saquon Barkley, he made you more than a one-dimensional team because he could catch the ball, he can receive the ball, he can catch him in screen passes, you could put him in the flats, and he can run the ball any way you want, left, right, or up the gut. That's what Saquon Barkley is. And now with the Giants are going into week 3, and the Giants do not look good, by the way. They do not look good. They came back against Arizona. We'll get into that in a little while. They came back from what? A 28-7 deficit. And I give Daniel Jones a lot of credit because it had a lot to do with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley on why they came back. And that's been happening for the last 2 seasons. They depend on 2 players. Their quarterback and their running back. They give their quarterback $40 million last year. in the offseason, and they decide not to give their star running back a long-term deal. But they give him incentives that he has to hit if he is expecting to make $14 million.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for him because, again, I think he would have still been able to get that kind of upside, whether it was with the Giants or with another team, because of the value that he is to that offense. The Giants are pretty much rotating wide receivers we've seen in the first 2 games because they just can't find anything consistent. Yeah, you mentioned Hyatt. He finally played well, but it's against Arizona. I mean, you're not going to jump the gun and say, all right, he's going to become a star now. Again, still waiting long term, but when you look at the Giants, we were talking about how hard their schedule was at the beginning of the year, too. Like, the Giants just really had to weather the storm and hope to be 500. This is absolute worst-case scenario already with Darren Waller hurt, Andrew Thomas, who didn't play and should not play tomorrow either, against the 49ers, against Nick Bosa, and now Saquon hurt. Yeah, you're really going to have to try to do a coaching masterclass.
What do you do in the offseason? Let's say this completely collapses for the New York Giants. Do you go after a quarterback if you fall in the top 10 this year? Do you do that? Or do you go after another offensive lineman, which they're craving for? Because their offensive line is horrendous. If you look at their offensive line in week 1, it was absolutely disgraceful. And in week number 2, against an Arizona team, and let's be honest, that defense will probably be ranked somewhere between 20 and 25 by the end of the season. This is not a good defense. It's not. They traded Simmons to the Giants. So they're not a good defensive team. But against the Giants, really for 3 quarters, they dominated. Absolutely dominated the Giants.
The Giants could not stop a slant pass to save their life.
And that goes to Wink Martindale.
Yeah.
Who everybody loved last year. Oh my God, this guy's a genius. This guy took over the defense. He is going to find the Giants a way to win every single night because of this defense, because he can get at the quarterback. He could blitz in so many different directions. For the last 2 weeks, where's the blitz coming from?
This is a defensive team that's better on paper, too.
I mean, if you look at the Giants right now, losing Saquon Barkley is like losing the quarterback.
Yeah.
It really is, because even with Daniel Jones, even if Daniel Jones could roll out against the San Francisco 49ers, with this defense, they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
They can't protect him. There is no Thomas. This line, you have a rookie at center and Schmidt. You have a bunch of guys that, are journeymen, except their rookie right tackle, who's been absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Where are the Giants going this week? Are they going to be absolutely demolished like they were against the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football?
I would expect it right now, unless the Giants get ultra creative and just do a bunch of gadget plays all game and hope for the best.
I mean, if you look at the situation for both New York teams, they're very similar. They really are. It's just different.
Yeah.
The Giants lose their best player, which is their running back. The Jets lose their best player, which is a quarterback. And both teams are going to be dependent on second-tier players.
And creativity of play calling.
I mean, if you look at Zach Wilson right now as a Jet fan, do you even think he's a second-tier player?
No.
I wouldn't even say that. And I don't blame Zach Wilson on why they lost against the Cowboys on Sunday, because it wasn't his fault. He did throw 3 interceptions. He did throw and forced 3 interceptions in the second half. He did. And that was a lot to do with he was trying to open up the field and open up opportunities for the wide receivers. And the wide receivers, let's be honest, couldn't get open but Garrett Wilson. He was the only one that was open the whole game.
And he still only caught the ball twice. That has to say something about Zach Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. But that has something to say about the offensive line.
That's it.
That couldn't protect him. Dwayne Brown is horrible. Again, going back to the Giants. You look at the Giants right now, you have to worry about. You have to worry about knowing that Saquon is not going to be in the backfield. Saquon is not going to hide the deficiencies of this offense, this offensive line for the next couple of weeks. And by the time he comes back in week 6, this season could be over for them. Mm-hmm. In the NFC East right now, you have the Cowboys and the Eagles. Both teams are 2-0.
Even Washington's 2-0.
And that's a whole nother thing against Denver. That was
crazy.
It was a crazy game. And we will get into that in just a few moments as well. But the fact that the Giants are the only team right now, and I'm going to say this fairly, they did come back. They did come back in a game that any other team or any other NFL organization, you probably wouldn't have come back from. The Arizona Cardinals are trying to lose. They are. They're 0-2. They could have won both games.
Yeah.
Arizona should be 2-0 right now. They should be. They should be 2-0. But why? Fourth quarter, they choked in both games. Both games. They had the lead in both games. And they didn't just have the lead against the Giants. They had a 3-touchdown lead against the New York Giants. So you look at the specific situations for both New York teams. Both teams are in a bad position. Both of them.
And the Giants, like you said, the next 4 games are all against good teams. I know Seattle hasn't looked great yet, but then you got the 49ers, who might look like the best team right now. You got Miami and you got Buffalo, but like all 4 of those teams have good coaching, good defensive coaching, and a talented defense on paper. Yes, Seattle did struggle against the run last year. Yes, Miami struggled against the run at certain points this year, but still, like, that is not going to be that's going to be a very difficult matchup for all these backup running backs. Brian Daboll's going to have to pull out every creative bit, and it took him forever, even in the Cardinals game, to start running Daniel Jones, too. Like, why are you not trying to do that more often? This is a Jonathan Gannon defense. Philly, like I mentioned last week, their defense has struggled against running quarterbacks last year, too. And like I was saying, the 49ers defense with whoever's been their coordinator has always had a history. You have to start there, because the Giants are not going to have any trustworthy wide receivers, like you were saying, and might not have even if Darren Waller does play, he might not be 100% healthy either.
Nick Chubb suffers a gruesome leg injury Monday Night Football versus the Steelers on a hit by Minka Fitzpatrick. Kevin Stefanski confirmed that Chubb will be out for the season with multiple ligaments tears in his knee, which includes the PCL, the MCL, and the ACL. The Browns signed Kareem Hunt back on a 1-year, $4 million deal, but say that second-year running back Jerome Ford will be the starter. Reports from NBC Sports say that Brown could explore trading. The Browns could explore trading for Jonathan Taylor as a rental as well, but that's not going to happen. Chubb has played 75 games, 5 NFL seasons before this season, and previously had never missed more than 4 games in a season. I will say this: that was a gruesome injury. It was disgusting. Yeah. It really is. And for ESPN not to re-show it on TV when it happened shows you how bad it was. Now, I saw somebody posted up on Twitter, and then it was forced to be taken down all over Twitter, because nobody should watch a player like Nick Chubb get a knee injury like that and have a knee injury like that. And it was very gruesome. But you look at the facts right now for the Cleveland Browns. They did not play well against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did not. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have not looked good. They have not. Both teams have not looked good for the last 2 weeks. I will say this. There are bright spots of Deshaun Watson. I've seen that Deshaun Watson still has it. He has to be more consistent. And now you're going to depend on a guy like Jerome Ford, who I thought looked really, really good when Chubb got hurt. He did. He looked really, really good against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They could not stop him. But is he going to stay healthy? He is not big. He is a small guy, speed guy. And now you bring in Kareem Hunt. And you know Kareem Hunt is going to want his touches. And he's going to want his opportunity to be the number 1 guy. So this is going to be back and forth with him and Jerome Ford on who's going to win that job. Right now, it will be Jerome Ford unless he gets hurt or he doesn't look good. But it's sad, because right now, if you look at the Cleveland Browns, they lost their best player. He's an all-pro running back. He's been one of the top running backs in the league for the last 3 seasons. Go look at his numbers. I thought this year was going to be even more of a breakout season. I could have seen him have 1,600 yards this year, the way he was running the ball. But now, Cleveland is going to have to depend on Kareem Hunt, who they didn't want to sign in the offseason, and Jerome Ford, who's a young kid and still is a little wet behind the ears. And you saw that throughout the preseason when you watch the Browns play in preseason games, because Jerome Ford was on the field a couple of times, and he didn't look good, but over the last 2 games of the season, the first 2 games of the season, especially in game number 2 when he took over for Nick Chubb, he looked good. But there's a lot of questions. You look at right now in their division, the division's wide open. The Bengals are 0-2. Joe Burrow, since he got that contract, has not looked good. That's the facts here. He has not looked good. The Cincinnati Bengals, and I've told everybody before the season started, I don't trust Cincinnati because I don't like their defense. Their defense has looked horrible. Okay? In 2 games, they have not looked good. And to be honest, who have they played in the 2 games? They haven't played really good teams. Who did they get beaten by?
The Browns and the Ravens.
The Browns and the Ravens. The Ravens right now are dealing with injuries. They just lost J.K. Dobbins for the season.
And 2 offensive linemen didn't play in that game either.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, they lose one of their best defensive players in the game number 1. And they're going into the season not at 100%. And they have a second-year quarterback that hasn't looked good throughout the preseason and throughout mini camps and even last season.
And they have Deontay Johnson hurt too.
Let's not get into that. He's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, so is Nick Chubb.
Yeah, that's another thing. But right now, this is a wide open division. It really is. It's wide open. Nobody's been good. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, the Bengals, the Browns, they all have looked bad. And we all thought, everybody thought that this could be the best division in football, the most talented division in football. And now you're watching 4 teams play absolutely horrible football.
And all of them are going to have to manage the injuries in some facet too, because the Browns, in addition to losing Chubb, also lost their right tackle, Jack Conklin, who was one of the best right tackles in the league last year. He's gone for the year too. So now you're trusting Kareem Hunt, who did not play well last year, and a second-year guy in Ford, who I do like too, to try to run on a backup offensive line too. Now I'll give the rookie right tackle Jones credit. He actually did well for the most part against TJ Watt in that game. So maybe there's a little silver lining for that, but still, the Browns are going to have to manage that, and they're going to have to become more of a pass-first team. Deshaun Watson, he looked good in some facets, but was incredibly inefficient, and you don't need that either, especially when you have good receiving depth, the best receiving depth he's probably had in his career, with plus Njoku, and they're going to have to find an identity that spawns on more passing than running for the first time probably in Kevin Stefanski's career. Now, their defense has held the boat very well. Their defense has been very good to start the season, but like you said, in this division, it's going to be hard.
Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat.
Of course.
He is on a hot seat. If this team don't make the playoffs this year, he's going to be fired. He had Baker Mayfield. He was there when Baker Mayfield was drafted. Baker's gone. He's the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. By the way, the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A team that nobody thought was going to be this good early this season. Nobody, including yours truly. I thought Tampa was going to be horrible. And Baker Mayfield, I don't know what's going on with him. Mike Evans looks like he's the best wide receiver in football right now. And they're running the ball. They're playing defense. Their defense is one of the best in the league right now in the first 2 games. And they're just playing at a high level with Todd Bowles as their coach.
Todd Bowles going for a turnaround in his coaching career.
It's crazy. Nobody would have thought that.
Nope.
And Kevin Stefanski, over the last couple of years, everybody says this guy's a genius when it comes to offense. Besides Nick Chubb, what has stood out to anybody watching Kevin Stefanski and his offense? Nothing. Nothing. How many wide receivers have they had here since Stefanski's been here?
Too many.
Odell Beckham. Come on, give me more, Speedy.
Oh, Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry. Give me another one, Speedy.
Well, now they're going for the great Elijah Moore.
Give me another one, Speedy.
Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
How about Amari Cooper?
Yep.
These are good. 3 out of those 5 guys are all pro players or Pro Bowl players.
And then there's a legend of Rashard Higgins, who, if he was an inch longer, would have beaten the Chiefs.
Stefanski's been there for how many years, Speedy?
This is his 4th year.
4 years. How many times has he played in the playoffs?
Once.
1 time. How many games has he won?
1 against the Steelers.
1 game in 4 years with the talented team that he has had with the Cleveland Browns. And at one point, probably people believed, I think it was 2 seasons ago, they had the most talented team in the NFL. And they didn't even make the playoffs that year.
Yep. That's what happens when you have the drama of that Baker Mayfield, Odell, and like you were saying, all these other diva wide receivers on this team. And Nick Chubb, amidst all that, was the guy that was the humble guy. He was the humble star.
I think when you look at the NFC North, and I mean the AFC North, and you wonder, with all these teams, from the Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Bengals, and then obviously the Steelers, which team is going to take the bull by its horns? Which team is going to start playing good football? And most people would tell you the Bengals, because the Bengals have the talent. But again, the Bengals' weakness right now is their defense. They don't have any. And Joe Burrow, inefficient, because he has not been efficient. But again, Joe Burrow, for the last 2 seasons, has started off slow. He usually does until week 4, week 5. If you remember, the last 8 or 9 games of the season, I think he was 8-1 or something like that. The guy, he gets hot in the second half, and this team is too talented with Jamar Chase and Higgins and Boyd and the running game with Mixon and Pirine. This is a good team. This is a good team. And it's a pretty good offensive line, even though the offensive line has not played well.
No, not against the Browns. It was horrible.
And Brown, after giving him the contract in the offseason, pretty much prying him away from the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, you would have thought that this offensive line would be even better than it was last year, especially in the second half.
Yep, and a lot of it also falls on coaching, too, because all these teams have had different coaching deficiencies the last 2 years, and so far we've seen the Ravens overcome theirs the most, too, which is their defensive coordinator. That was an issue for them last year, but their defense, actually, with a lot of injuries that they've had, has still been good this year. Now, granted, they played the Texans, but again, they still put a clinic on the Bengals, though. Say what you want about the Bengals struggling, but that's still a talented offense, like you were saying. The Steelers, they got to find some level of offensive coaching, because the offensive play calling for Matt Canada has been horrible to start the year for them. Yeah, they have injuries with Deontay Johnson, but still, they have enough talent on that offense to still compensate anyway. And now we have to see with the Browns. Can Kevin Stefanski run more of a pass-first offense and not waste the defensive talent that Jim Schwartz has made a lot better this season?
And that's the thing. I think if you look at this division, it's all about the defense, because Baltimore losing key pieces early this season to defense, and the Bengals losing key pieces in the offseason, losing Bates. He goes to Atlanta, and look how Atlanta's been playing. Defensively, you add somebody like Jesse Bates, he changes everything defensively to that secondary. That secondary has been one of the better secondaries in the first 2 games of the season.
Hey, Packers fans, how'd Jordan Love do in the fourth quarter?
I've said this already, and I'll say it again. For all the Packer fans out there that were cheering after, obviously, Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the New York Jets and you get a first-round draft pick. You don't get the first-round draft pick. Aaron Rodgers still could play this year and probably play next year for the New York Jets. And your guy, Jordan Love, even though he had a very good first game, who did he play? He played the Chicago Bears, who absolutely stink right now. They look horrible. And who did you beat in week 2?
Nobody, because they came back. They collapsed. They were up 24-12 and couldn't hold the lead.
That's the point here. The NFL is so wide open, week in and week out, no matter how talented your team is. Everybody thinks San Francisco is going to run away in the NFC. Not necessarily. Really, the Giants could win tomorrow, even without Saquon Barkley, even without the offensive woes and the offensive line woes that they have. They could win. Why? Because Brock Purdy is just an efficient quarterback. He is not a star quarterback, and he's not expected to be a star quarterback.
No, the Giants have to learn how to cover a slant pass, because the 49ers lead the league every year in yards after the catch.
So let's go through the game, Speedy. We'll go from each game from Thursday night all the way to Monday night. You'll go first. We'll give you our thoughts to each and every single game, and then we'll go all the way through until what do we have?
Let's parlays at 8:30.
All right, so that should take us to 8:15, and then we'll talk about the Giannis situation. So let's go, Speedy.
All righty. So Thursday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Minnesota Vikings 34-28 in that one. Still some concern with the Eagles defense, but their offense finally got back on track. Now, they were able to force turnovers. They were an opportunistic defense. They still were able to get pressure, but also Minnesota did not have a lot of offensive line talent either. But the running game, DeAndre Swift had a great game against the Vikings, a team he's used to playing against, and that's a good sign for that backfield field, which has usually been a rotational bit so far. So give the Eagles credit there, but there's still some concerns with the defense.
It was a high-flying offensive game. It really was. Minnesota showed you why they're expected to be a good offensive team this year. Kirk Cousins had another good week. For all those Beeve haters out there, Beeve hates Kirk Cousins, and a lot of people hate the Beeve. Beeve, I don't know what you're smoking. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. 31 for 44, 364 yards, 4 touchdowns was fantastic. They couldn't run the ball. That was the problem in the game. They depended too much on Justin Jefferson, 11 receptions for 159 yards and 13 targets. Jordan Addison had a touchdown, 3 receptions for 72 yards, 1 touchdown. I love TJ Hawkinson this year, 7 receptions for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. They have showed you offensively that they can spread the ball out. The problem is, can they run the ball? That is the problem. As far as the Eagles are concerned, for the second week in a row, Jalen Hurts has not looked good. 18 for 23, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's not going to get it done against the San Francisco 49ers. That's not going to get it done against the Dallas Cowboys if you have to play Micah Parsons in that defensive line. Ask the Jets. But I love what they did on the running game. We've seen Swift finally have a good game. He hasn't had a good game for a very long time, even with Detroit. The guy couldn't stay healthy, and when he was on the field, he couldn't put up the numbers. But 28 carries, 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 6.25 average a touch. Boston Scott, he had a pretty good game too. 5 carries for 40 yards. Jalen Hurts ran the ball very, very well and 2 touchdowns. So that could hide the deficiencies of his arm. And then Devontae Smith, 4 receptions, 131 yards and 1 touchdown. A.J. Brown, they got to get more involved in the offense. He had a pretty good first week, not a very good second week. They have to spread the offense more. They have to. And Jalen Hurts has to get his head out of his ass, because if they go into those games against San Francisco and Dallas and some of these, even Washington might give them problems in certain aspects of the game. If they go into those games, they could lose. So.
All right, next one. This one will be a quickie. The Bills blowing out the Raiders 38-10. Yeah, this is the ideal redemption game after losing the way they did against the Jets, collapsing. Josh Allen looked like Jay Cutler. They did everything right pretty much except run the ball. They still have to figure that part of it out, but everything else, they went back to vintage Bills form, and the Raiders just stink because Josh McDaniels is coaching them, and they 0 adjustments when Devontae Adams is shut down.
Well, there's a lot of stories going on with the whole Chandler situation. Chandler, right now, Oakland's not getting any pressure up the middle. He's not getting on any pressure on the edges. And losing Chandler Jones for the season, possibly, because he doesn't want to play for the Raiders. And they're trying to figure out ways to spread out and figure out to find a defense right now. They have none of it. And they haven't run the ball. They cannot run the ball. And that says a lot about what this team is going into this season. Everybody expected the Raiders to be a good running team. When you have Josh Jacobs running the ball 9 times and has a -2, that spells disaster. And right now, they're falling behind these teams pretty quickly. They had a lead against the Buffalo Bills in the first quarter. They looked like they had their number. The Bills again were falling to the same situation they had in game number 1. They kept going back and forth with those teams defensively and offensively, and then punting the ball. And a guy like Allen, he didn't look good in the first half. But in the second half, he exploded. 31 for 37, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. James Cook ran the ball very well, 17 carries, 123 yards. Damian Harris had a kick return, which got him all the way to the 50, but 7 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. Murray had 6 carries for 22 yards and a touchdown. The weakness of this team for a very, very long time was their running game. They depended too much on Josh Allen and his running ability. They're not doing it this year. I see them spread out their running games with 3 different running backs, and you see the difference of this team in game number 2. I love what I saw with Josh Allen in game number 2, and I expect him to do more of that as the season progressively moves forward. 38-10.
All right, we were just talking about this, the Ravens and the Bengals. Ravens winning it 27-24. They're 2-0. The Bengals are 0-2. And I will admit, I will give Mike McDonald, their defensive coordinator, more credit. I did not anticipate him to be able to do this well so far with the injuries that they have on defense. No Marlon Humphrey, who's been one of the best corners in the league. Marcus Williams also was hurt in that game. But they've had some impact players from some of the guys they brought in this offseason. Jadeveon Clowney, who they just signed about a month ago, made an impact in this game, had a sack, a couple quarterback hits. David Ojabo, who they drafted, was hurt last year. Big impact players on the defense, and offensively, Zay Flowers. I mean, he's not right now Addison or the kid Puka with the Rams, but he's looking like a pretty good rookie wide receiver, something the Ravens have needed for a long time.
I will say this. I cannot believe You hear me out on this. I cannot believe the Baltimore Ravens are 2-0. Okay? They have not looked good. They have not looked good defensively. They have not looked good offensively, but they've done everything they can to win these games. And they're playing teams that they should be. Now, the Bengals, a lot of people thought we're back and forth, and I know you had the Bengals winning. I think I had the Bengals winning too.
You had the Bengals as a wild card. Oh, the game, yes.
Yes, I had the Bengals. But again, I thought Lamar Jackson was efficient, 24 for 33, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gus Edwards, 10 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson he had 12 carries and 54 yards. Justice Hill has another good game, 11 carries for 41 yards, no touchdowns. They're running the ball very, very well. They are. And they're spreading the offense out. Now, Nelson Aguilera, 5 receptions, 63 yards and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 4 receptions for 62 yards. And even Mark Andrews coming back, 5 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. And Odell Beckham has not had a good year. And that has a lot to do because he's hanging out with Kim Kardashian. It's the Kardashian curse, ladies and gentlemen. He has not looked good in the first 2 games. Everybody expected him to be explosive on this team, and he has been nothing to this team. And Rashad Bateman, who I thought was going to have a breakout year, coming back, and he's 100% healthy, 3 receptions for 18 yards. That's not going to do enough. As far as the Bengals are concerned, let's be honest. I don't know what's going on with Joe Burrow. He had the highest contract in quarterback history, highest NFL contract in history a couple of weeks ago. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes just broke that as the Kansas City Chiefs gives him an extension, and he's making like $56 million a year, which is the highest in NFL history. But Joe Burrow, 27 for 41, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. That's not going to do it for me. Joe Mixon, 13 carries for 59 yards. That's not going to do it for me. This running game, which was supposed to be explosive with the players that they have not been the same. And T. Higgins, 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the only one that showed up in the game. What is going on with Jamar Chase? What is going on with him? 2 weeks, he hasn't had over 100 yards. He has done nothing over the last 2 weeks. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If Joe Burrow doesn't figure this out with Jamar Chase, this could be a long, long season for the Cincinnati Bengals. And please, this defense needs to wake up. They need to wake up because they are not going to compete with the better teams in this division and all the other divisions that they have lined up for them moving forward this season.
All right. One game that was surprisingly low scoring. The Kansas City Chiefs win 17-9 against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. A game that was dominated really by this Chiefs defense, and Chris Jones's presence, I think, really was felt. You saw the defensive line get a lot more pressure in Kansas City than in the first game against Detroit against that offensive line. I was worried about Jacksonville's offensive line a little bit in the beginning of the season with the injuries, rookie tackle as well, no Cam Robinson, and it definitely hurt them. ETN not able to run the ball the same way, just 40 yards in this game. Christian Kirk did have a nice game, but this time Calvin Ridley got shut down. And maybe that's something Trevor Lawrence will have to figure out. If one target, can they get a second target to emerge in the system? Because he only had 216 passing yards. And last week, even too, it was just Ridley and everyone else. And the Chiefs, could they win with their defense finally? Maybe that's a good start. And Pacheco was kind of efficient too, 70 yards to 5.8 yards a carry.
I don't know why you're bragging about the Chiefs. The Chiefs did not look good. They did not look good. 29 for 41 for Patrick Mahomes, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. That's not Patrick Mahomes' numbers. They're not. And what they have done, Pacheco had a decent game, 12 carries for 70 yards, and Patrick Mahomes ran the ball, 7 carries for 30 yards. They didn't do anything. They don't have any offensive weapons. If you're going to depend on Sky Moore with 3 receptions, 70 yards, and 1 touchdown, and everybody else, look, Justin Watson, 3 carries for 3 receptions for 62 yards. Noah Gray, 3 receptions for 38 yards. Kadarius Toney, the human joystick, 5 receptions for 35 yards. They're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. And Travis Kelce, he is coming back from an injury. He isn't 100% healthy. 4 receptions, 26 yards, and a touchdown. That's not going to beat the good teams. They knocked off a Jacksonville Jaguar team. Let's be honest, haven't figured out their offensive game. They're a good defensive team. They've proven that they could be a good defensive team. Trevor Lawrence did not look good in game number 2, 22 for 41, 216 yards. That's for sure. And Travis Etienne, you keep saying, oh, he didn't have a good game. He didn't have a good game last week. I have him on both of my teams, my fantasy teams, and he hasn't looked good. 12 carries, 40 yards. He left the game. He cramps. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're not getting a running game. And the only person, and I'll say this, everybody keeps talking about Calvin Ridley. Christian Kirk is the best wide receiver on this team. 11 receptions, 110 yards, 14 targets. I expect him to be more into the offense moving forward, not Calvin Ridley. Evan Ingram had a good game, 6 receptions for 57 yards. I thought Jacksonville played a good enough game to win the game. I don't know why anybody thinks that Kansas City blew Jacksonville out. Yes, adding Jones to that defense did help them, but how much? The defense played well in game number 1. They just fell short. I do believe that Kansas City is not as good as they were last year. They're going to have problems against the better teams, especially the better offensive teams moving forward.
All right, the least clutch team in football doing least clutch team in football things as the Titans beat the Chargers 27-24. Now, I know I like to make fun of the Chargers, but this will not be an all Chargers bashing thing because they did do some good things in this game. Derrick Henry only 39 yards, or no, Derrick Henry 80 yards in this game on 25 carries, 3.2 yards a carry in that one. For a Chargers run defense that's been bad for years, that's very impressive, but they still got to fix out that secondary because they still allowed a lot of big plays. Chris Moore, a 49-yard catch, Treylon Burks, 76 yards. They got to figure out that secondary situation big time because they were able to finally get pressure, 4 sacks in this game, but their offensive line for the Chargers the Titans had some good pass rush in the second half too. Justin Herbert had a nice game, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, but their running game without Eckler definitely was missed in that game.
I was very impressed with Ryan Tannehill. He had a very good day. He had a very good weekend, 20 for 24, 246 yards, 1 touchdown. He stood out to me on this Tennessee Titan team, and this is why they won. And right now, the Los Angeles Chargers are not supposed to be 0-2 right now. And now they're going into a season where they're going to have to win week 3. If they don't, there's a good chance they might not even make the playoffs in a division that is so competitive. But nevertheless, a division that hasn't been very good. I mean, you have Denver is 0-2. I mean, Oakland's 0-2, and the only team that's 1-1 right now. It's crazy the way the NFC looks pretty good, and the NFC looks like crap.
Yeah, the AFC, I think the NFC is 6-0 this season in head-to-head matchups on the AFC.
Derrick Henry, 25 carries for 80 yards, 1 touchdown. He looked good this week. He didn't look good last week. Treylon Burks probably had his best game of his career. 3 receptions for 76 yards. Chris Moore, 1 reception for 49. DeAndre Hopkins, 4 receptions for 40. And then obviously Nick Westbrook. Akeen. Okay. Weird name, by the way. 3 receptions, 25 yards, and 1 touchdown. He had his first touchdown of his career. So I don't think that this game was explosive offensively for them. Defensively, the Tennessee Titans showed up and played very good defense. And this defense could be one of the best defenses in the league. I don't know what's going on with Los Angeles. I really don't. Yes, you were right. Justin Herbert had a good game. 27 for 41, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joshua Kelly did okay. Here's the thing. Losing Eckler for a significant amount of time hopefully comes back this week because you could see Joshua Kelly, he's not going to carry the load on this team. He's not Austin Eckler.
He's just a bruiser.
Yes. And to me, Austin Eckler should have been paid in the offseason. He's going to be paid after this season, especially if he puts up the numbers he did last year. And I expect him to because week 1, he had 2 touchdowns and he had over 100 yards. And I expect him when he comes back to put up those numbers too. They have nobody. Look how many running backs they used in this game. Joshua Kelly, 13 for 39. Davis, 1 carry, 10 yards. Elijah Dotson, 4 receptions. 4 carries, 6 yards. Isaiah Spiller, who they drafted, third round, fourth round, 1 carry for 3 yards. Mike Williams, 1 carry for 3 yards. I mean, nobody can run the ball in this game. And then Keenan Allen had a good game. We expect him to, the veteran. 8 receptions, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Williams had a good game. 8 receptions, 83 yards. Gerald Everett had a good game. 3 receptions, 47 yards. Problem is the only person that could score and put the ball in the end zone is Keenan Allen. That is not going to win you the games and the close games, and that's why the Los Angeles Chargers are 0-2.
All right, we were talking about the Green Bay Packers earlier. They collapse. They were up 24-12, and they lose at 25-24 to the Atlanta Falcons. And the Packer fans, this is your great Jordan Love. 14 for 25 for 151 passing yards. Yes, he did have 3 touchdowns, but let's see. Who's the Packers' leading receiver this game? Dontavian Wicks, 40 yards and a touchdown. Yikes. Their defense played well, I'll admit that, but the Falcons kept running, and we were talking about it on the weekend crunch with the Giants. Like, why didn't the Giants keep running? Like, the Falcons, even down that, still kept running. Bijan was Bijan, 124 yards and 48 receiving yards as well. Drake London, after not having a catch in week 1, showed up 6 catches, 67 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned he was a good matchup against the Packers' smaller corners in this game. And Desmond Ridder, like you're saying
Was
with Brock
efficient.
Purdy, was efficient enough. And the Falcons will see, have to test it. If the running game gets stopped, that'll be the next step for them. But right now they're 2-0. Their defense looks good too.
If you're a fantasy guy, I would pick up Desmond Ridder. He can run the ball and he could throw the ball. So he could do both. As we know with Justin Fields and Richardson, if he does both, he's going to put pretty good points up for you. 19 for 32, 237 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was efficient. That's all you need from him if you have a shutdown defense. Bijan Robinson, obviously, 19 carries for 124 yards. The guy is a beast. He is a beast. We expect him to have a very big season. He could be an all-pro player this year as a rookie. Drake London, 6 receptions for 67 yards, 1 touchdown. Probably one of his better games. Matt Hollins, 3 receptions, 60 yards. Bijan Robinson caught the ball, 4 receptions, 44 yards. The guy is all over the place. Here's the problem. They need to get Kyle Pitts involved in this offense. He is looked horrible. This guy's a top 10 pick a couple of years ago. He was the best. His rookie season, he was one of the better tight ends in the league. The last 2 years with Marcus Mariota and now with Desmond Ridder, he's been horrible. And this defense, I expect this defense to be even better than it is this year. I think Atlanta, as crazy as it may sound, and I thought it was crazy to say this, they are a playoff team in a division that's so open. I think they can absolutely be a playoff team. Jordan Love, 14 for 25, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns. Everybody says, well, he still threw 3 touchdowns. 14 for 25, and there were short passes, guys, and he had a lot. A.J. Dillon, 15 carries, 55 yards. Jordan Love, 2 receptions for 23 yards. Those are not good numbers. And like you said, Wicks, 2 receptions for 40 yards and 1 touchdown. And I'll say this, Reed could be a big target for this guy moving forward, especially when Watson comes back. He missed another week. But when Watson comes back and you have Reed on one side and you have Christian Watson on the other, this team could be very explosive. 4 receptions, 37 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a game. So I expect Green Bay to be competitive week in and week out because I think their defense is a shutdown defense. But Jordan Love is going to have to put up bigger numbers like this if they expect to beat the better teams in their division.
All right, and then moving on, the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. Last year, Seattle won 48-45 in this game. This time, it's 37-31. Very similarly high scoring. Seattle's defense still with a little bit of concerns with that secondary. Still no Devon Witherspoon, their 5th overall pick in the draft. But their slot corner play DBs have to be a lot better, though, too, because Josh Reynolds, another big game for the Lions, former Ram. Jared Goff had a nice game in this game, too. The one guy that didn't was Jahmyr Gibbs. The Seahawks were able to shut him down. Kenneth Walker, not great either, but did have 2 touchdowns as well. But Geno Smith bounced back after a really bad week 1 and spread the ball out very well in this game. A lot of guys had 35+ yards. 6 different players had that. Tyler Lockett, 2 touchdowns as well. And Seattle winning with their offense right now when their defense still has had some issues.
Here's the problem with Seattle. They lost DK Metcalf, and we don't know if he's going to be healthy going into this week. A lot of people say Pete Carroll says he could be ready. He came back in the second half, even hurt. He has bruised ribs, but if he can't play it, he's not 100%. That could affect their offense. Geno Smith, like you said, Speedy, had a very good day. 32 for 41, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked really, really good. Kenneth Walker, even though he didn't put up the yards, he had 2 touchdowns, and he's explosive. Everybody keeps talking about this guy, Carbonet, and how talented he is. 4 receptions, 16 yards. I do not believe he's going to take the job for Kenneth Walker III. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be explosive this year. 7 carries for 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. I expect him to be as good as he was last year. DK Metcalf, even when he was in the game, 6 receptions, 75 yards. Tyler Lockett, like you said, Speedy, 8 receptions for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Noah Fant had a pretty good day, 4 receptions for 56 yards. So I expect Seattle if they can figure out what they're doing defensively, this team is explosive offensively. And I expect Njigba to be involved in this offense even more. He had 5 receptions this week for 34 yards. I expect him to put up better numbers when he figures out the offense. He figures out the speed of the NFL game. As far as the Lions are concerned, I love the Lions. I think the Lions are going to be a dangerous team. Jared Goff, 28 for 35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, had another good week. If you have him on your fantasy, start him week in and week out. David Montgomery had one of his better games as a Lion now, his second game as a Lion. 16 carries for 67 yards and 1 touchdown. Gibbs needs to figure this out. This guy was a top pick. He was a top 13 pick?
12th pick,
yeah. This guy should be putting up the numbers. In the last 2 weeks, he has not looked good. 7 carries for 17 yards is not going to do it for me. We all know what St. Brown is. 6 receptions, 102 yards. He is going to have 100-yard weeks every single week, and he's going to put up the numbers. Josh Reynolds, again, I will say this again. He has become Jared Goff's number one target as he put up 5 receptions, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And obviously, Raymond had 2 receptions for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. This team is explosive. I expect this team to be competitive week in and week out. And this is a good defense, a good young defense. They just hit a tree, and I mean a big tree of DK Metcalf and a young tree. A small tree of Tyler Lockett, and that's why they lost the game this week.
All right, and one team that's been like the Cardinals, kind of pesky, and they get a win here. The Colts, 31-20 over the Texans.
Surprisingly, after losing Richardson.
Managing injuries, again, with Richardson going out with a concussion, was doing very well before he got hurt in the second quarter.
He's been very impressive.
He has been very impressive, too, and I think his decision-making has gotten a lot better, too, as the games have gone along, too. Still having some issues with the short passes, still having some issues with, again, reading some defenses.
All the rookies have problems with
But
that.
I do think it's a lot better than expected so far, and again, Michael Pittman has been the receiver he was 2 years ago when Carson Wentz was there. He's been a target monster for them so far, and only 56 yards in this game, but 8 catches. And the Colts still need to find that second receiver, but so far their defense has played pretty well so far to start this year, and their coaching, I think, has been strong on all ends.
Who's going to cry about their backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew? Now, I don't know if he's driving his bus or whatever he's doing on the sidelines, but the guy was 19 for 23, put up good numbers, 171 yards and 1 touchdown after taking off for Anthony Richardson, who had 6 for 10, 56 yards, and looked like he was going to have a big day. Zach Moss had a very good week. 18 carries, 88 yards and 1 touchdown, 4.89 in average, which is over the league minimal, which is like 3.5. So that's good. Anthony Richardson, when he was in the game, he had three carries, 35 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you could get that from your quarterback every single week, he's going to be explosive week in and week out. Michael Pittman, 8 receptions for 56 yards. Will Mallory, 2 receptions for 49 yards. Josh Downs, 4 receptions for 37 yards. Alec Pierce, 2 receptions for 28 yards. He's spreading it out. Both Gardner Minshew and obviously Anthony Richardson, were spreading out the offense. This is we all know what the Colts are defensively. They're a good defensive team. They have a bunch of good young defensive players. And I have to give Houston a lot of credit. I am not going to put Houston down, even though they're 0-2. Here's what really stood out to me. C.J. Stroud is figuring it out. 30 for 47, 384 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pierce is going to be explosive this year. 15 carries, 31 yards. Could have had a better day. But here's the thing. Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 146 yards. He's the number 1 target this year, 1 touchdown. Robert Woods, 6 receptions, 74 yards. Robert Woods was horrible last year. Yeah. He was horrible last year. So now he has a quarterback that's competent, that can get him the ball. Tank Dell had 7 receptions, 72 yards and 1 touchdown. If you look at the offense and you look at what C.J. Stroud has done in week number 2, he spread out the offense, and you could see the talent that he has, the young talent that he has. I love the Texans. I think the Texans are going to win more games than people think. I think they win 5 or 6 when they figure it out. C.J. Stroud is the real deal. But Indianapolis put up a really good game and a good game plan, even though they lost their star quarterback.
All right, talking about the Buccaneers earlier. They beat the Bears 27-17. First on the Chicago end, like I was saying with the Steelers, this coaching on offense has to get a lot better. Luke Getsy, former Packers offensive coordinator, takes some shots down the field. It seems like they're not running Justin Fields enough. First of all, he only had 4 carries in that game for just 3 yards. I knew it would be hard on the Tampa defense, who's a good outside rushing defense, but still, game plan for that more and stretch the field. DJ Moore finally played well, but Darnell Mooney getting hurt in that game did not help them at all. They could not find a second option in that game, but just even so, the creativity for this offense has to be better. As far as Tampa, like you're saying, Baker Mayfield's playing like a man possessed.
Unbelievable.
A redemption tour type year for Baker Mayfield.
He's going to get himself a lot of money.
Mike Evans, like you said, a phenomenal game, 171 yards and a touchdown. And even some of the other guys too, 5 catches for Godwin, 6 for Cade Otton, their second-year tight end. Rashad White, John Daigle's boy, 17 carries, 73 yards, and then receiving did a lot as well. So good showing from Tampa, and I guess maybe Todd Bowles, that coaching staff, has something going.
I have no idea what's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but whatever they're doing it right. And Baker Mayfield is going to get himself a big contract in the offseason. And I will say this, Mike Evans, who was pushing his way out, Why would he push his way out when he's getting the ball? 6 receptions, 171 yards, 1 touchdown. Baker, 26 for 34, 317 yards, 1 touchdown. The guy has not thrown any interceptions in week 2. Did he throw an interception in week 1? I don't even think he did.
I don't think so.
So in 2 weeks, he has thrown touchdowns, he's thrown the yards, and he's not throwing interceptions. He's not giving the ball away. And that, to me, shows you that this team could be a winning team in the NFC. When you look at, like you said, White looks good, 17 carries for 73 yards and 1 touchdown, 4.29 a carry, which is over the league limit. Chase Edmonds, 2 receptions for 12 yards. I expect this team to be even more explosive offensively when they get everybody involved. I think this is a good team. Chris Godwin, 5 receptions for 58 yards. We haven't seen a lot of Chris Godwin this year, but I expect it to be even more explosive when they do get him involved. As far as Justin Fields is concerned, I don't know what's going on with him. 16 for 29, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's not going to get it done. And by the way, why isn't he using his legs?
Yeah.
That has been a huge problem so far early this season. 4 carries for 3 yards and 1 touchdown. That's not going to do it. I expect Justin Fields to use his legs more. I understand they added more explosive players in the offseason. Herbert's their best running back right now. They should have not moved away from Montgomery. I have no idea why they decided to part ways with him. You bring in a guy like Herbert who has 7 carries, 35 yards. He didn't do enough, and they're not getting enough from their running game. DJ Moore had a good game, 6 receptions, 104 yards, still hasn't put it in the end zone. Cole Kmet, who I like as a tight end, / wide receiver, 4 receptions for 38 yards. And Chase Claypool, finally, after he hasn't shut up over the last couple of weeks, he's finally done something. 3 receptions for 36 yards and 1 touchdown. Boo friggin' who? Okay, this defense is horrible. This offensive line is horrible. I don't know what the Chicago Bears are going to be, but this could be another year where they could be a number 1 pick and try to trade out of it and try to get pieces for the future.
Speaking of horrible defense and horrible offensive line, the New York Giants barely hang on to beat Arizona. They come back, like you said, down 28-7, and they hang on to beat the tanking Arizona Cardinals. Wake Martindale, learn how to stop a slant pass. That's number 1. You have better corner depth this year. Use it. You have better linebacker play this year. Use it to guard that area and make adjustments. There's no way Josh Dobbs and these old wide receivers should be doing as much as they did in that game. Their offense, they got to figure out on that offensive line. Finally, they took a while to run Daniel Jones in the second half. You do that more. We'll see, like we were saying with Saquon long term, but short term, this is very concerning for the way the Giants played, even though they came back and won. Give Daniel Jones a lot of credit, like you were saying, but this coaching staff's got to wake up.
I will say this. Daniel Jones had a pretty good day, pretty good day. 26 for 37, 321 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. No question. Here's the loss. You lose Saquon Barkley, who in the second half did what he needed to do to get his team back into it. 17 carries, 63 yards and 1 touchdown. Daniel Jones had 9 carries for 59 yards and 1 touchdown, 6.56 a carry, which is ridiculous. And Matt Breida, when he did take over for Saquon Barkley, one carry for 5 yards. Jalen Hyatt had his best game, 2 receptions, 89 yards. He had those 2 long ones. So you got to give the kid credit. He actually could catch the ball. We figured it out. But
yeah, he turned into not having Will Fuller syndrome.
Darren Waller, 6 receptions, 76 yards. He really didn't take off until the second half. He disappeared in the first half. Darius Slayton, 3 carries for 62 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. You're going to have to see more Hodgins in the next couple of weeks, because to me, I don't trust Jalen Hyatt. I don't know how healthy Darren Waller is going to be out throughout the season. And Darius Slayton is not a number 1 guy. I'm not saying Hodgins is, but it seems like Daniel Jones likes him. As far as the Cardinals should be 2-0. They should be 2-0. And by the way, this quarterback, Joshua Dobbs, has looked pretty good. He really has. Kyler Murray is not the starting quarterback because he's dealing with the tear ACL, and he might be back sometime this season. But Joshua Dobbs, he was 21 for 31, 228 yards and 1 touchdown. James Conner, 23 yards, 23 carries, 106 yards and 1 touchdown. So those are good numbers. Zach Ertz, who I think is going to be a trade piece for a lot of teams that are going to be looking for a tight end, a playoff contending team. 6 receptions for 56 yards. And then obviously Marquise Brown, 6 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown. Another guy that probably be traded sometime this season before the trade deadline. All in all, the Cardinals had a chance to win this game many different times, and it seemed like they just wanted to give it away. I expect this team to possibly win no games this year because they had a chance in both games going into the fourth quarter with a lead and completely bomb in both games in the fourth quarter. I expect this team to just throw away games because they want that number one pick, who will be Caleb Williams.
All right. Another AFC West team that cannot finish games, the Denver Broncos fall another close one, 35-33 against the Washington Commanders. They got the Hail Mary to go, but could not get the 2-point conversion. In this game, you saw the offense play better, but the defense did not play well. Vance Joseph coming back to this Broncos defensive coaching staff after was head coach there and did not do very well. Losing Ijo Avero to Carolina, who did very well for them last year, has definitely hurt them in the fourth quarter in both of those games so far against the Raiders last week. And you saw Washington showcase what they can do. Eric Bieniemy coaching that team. They can spread the ball around very nicely in this game. 4 different receivers over 40 yards. Brian Robinson, what a comeback story he's been. A guy that was shot in the leg last year in that wrongful bank robbery type thing. I think it was car robbery, my bad. But 87 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then added 42 receiving yards as well. He's had a phenomenal year. And Sam Howell, he looks like a pretty good player so far.
Get out of here.
I mean, he's not amazing, but better than what the other quarterback play has been for the last couple of years in Washington, and can stretch the field a little bit too. You got to give him some credit. And like you're saying, Eric Bieniemy finally getting it going.
I don't like what Bieniemy is doing with Antonio Gibson. He was one of their most explosive players last year. And now all of a sudden he had 2 carries for 9 yards. The last 2 weeks he's been absolutely nowhere. He has been no part of the offense. I understand Brian Robinson looks good. 18 carries, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 4.83 a carry. Like I said, it's over the league minimum. But Sam Howell, 27 for 39, 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. I expect him to do that against a defense that has not looked good the last 2 weeks. The Broncos, I don't know what's going on with their defense. Maybe it's Sean Payton. Maybe it's just they lost the will to play defense. I don't know. It wasn't Russell Wilson's fault this week. I can tell you that. Terry McLaurin had 5 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. He finally woke up. John Bates, three receptions, 46 yards. Here's the thing. What is going on with Dotson? 3 receptions, 22 yards. And this is what I'm saying. Gibson is lost in the offense, and so is Dotson, 2 of their most explosive players. That's why Bieniemy needs to figure this out, because if 2 of their guys and 2 of their most explosive players are not a part of the offense, when they start playing the better teams, they're going to lose big time. I love what I see with Bieniemy right now. He's spreading the offense out, but it still worries me. They haven't played anybody good. When they start playing the good teams, that's when you're going to have to see if Bieniemy's offense is going to work. Russell Wilson, 18 for 32, 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. 6 carries for 56 yards for Russell Wilson. Had a pretty good running day. Marvin Mims was actually used in a running game, 2 carries for 10 yards. But here's the thing. Marvin Mims had his best game. I know it's his second game of his NFL career. 2 receptions, 113 yards, and 1 touchdown. Brandon Johnson looked pretty good the other day. 2 receptions, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Cortland Sutton, 5 receptions, 66 yards. Jerry Jeudy finally back, 3 receptions, 25 yards. They could spread their offense out. They can absolutely spread their offense out. I don't know what's going on with Sean Payton. They had a chance to win the game. They got the touchdown, the Hail Mary, and then they screwed up with the 2-point conversion. I thought it was a penalty. It should have been played over again, but the time went out, and then Washington wins 35-33.
All right, and the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. Well, starting with the Rams, they're really a 2-man wrecking crew. Kyron Williams, like you mentioned earlier, has had a phenomenal start to the season. Was why they traded Cam Akers. He had 2 touchdowns in a big game last week, 52 yards and a touchdown last week, and 6 catches, 48 yards. And Puka Nacua, rookie wide receiver, 5th-round pick, 15 catches, 147 yards. I think he had some kind of rookie record already for the most catches and receiving yards in a rookie season. I think since, like you were saying, the Randy Moss rookie season that everyone talks about. But that's really all they have right now. And the 49ers just have too much talent. Besides that, Christian McCaffrey, another big game for him. It took him a little while to get going in the second half, but his first half was fantastic. Deebo Samuel had a much better game than week 1. And like you're saying, we'll have to see if the Niners get tested once they have to stretch the field, but so far they haven't had to do that so far with Purdy.
Purdy doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is be efficient. 17 for 25, 206 yards. Christian McCaffrey, again, big day, 20 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel was used to carry the ball as well, 5 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown. Even Brock Purdy had a touchdown in the game running the ball in. Deebo Samuel finally woke up. We saw a little bit of his explosiveness on both sides of the ball, running and catching the ball. 6 receptions for 63 yards. Brandon Ayuk, who had a great week 1, didn't have a big week. 3 receptions, 43 yards, but was efficient. George Kittle, three catches for 30 yards. This team you could spread out the offense. They're very explosive, but defensively they're beastly. And by the way, the fact that the LA Rams put up 23 points against this defense was very impressive. I really thought it was very impressive. Matthew Stafford has looked really, really good. 34 for 55, 307 yards, 1 touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions. One of them was at the end of the game, so I don't count that one. Williams looked really good, and that's why they traded Akers, because he's taken over and he's really run away with this running game. 14 carries, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. Even Matthew Stafford ran it 4 times and 17 yards. And I like what Nakoa, who had 15 carries, 15 receptions, 147 yards. I'm not surprised that he did it again this week. And then Tutu Atwell had 7 receptions, 77 yards. And obviously Williams also caught the ball in receptions as well. 6 receptions, 48 yards, and 1 touchdown. He looked really good running the ball and catching the ball. And now I think they found the future running back for the next couple of years. I think he's very explosive. I like what I see with the Rams. The 49ers are just too good.
All righty. Speaking of too good, the Dallas Cowboys, so they've been dominating too. 30-10 against the New York Jets. Their defense putting on a clinic again with their pass rush. Like you were saying, the Jets offensive line had a lot of issues with the tackle position too. Now, the Jets did do some good things against the run. Tony Pollard, 72 yards, only 2.9 yards a carry. But the one thing that Dallas was able to expose, they were able to move CeeDee Lamb off of Sauce Gardner a lot, which you saw the Bills do last week with Stephon Diggs. That's why he had 10 catches. And Jeff Ulbrich for the Jets is going to have to make that kind of adjustment and shadow Sauce on these guys man-to-man a lot more. Because honestly, besides CeeDee Lamb, nobody else really did much with the Dallas receiving end. Tony Pollard had 7 catches, but only 37 yards. And their offensive line was iffy at certain points too. The Jets defense, I just think, has to make some adjustments. Their offense, when they can't run the ball, it's going to be very hard for them to be able to adapt.
Here's the impressive thing. Dak Prescott has been very efficient the first 2 weeks. And I've said this. His footwork is better. You could see it. And they were even talking about his footwork. And you see the difference of his game. And now you see McCarthy running the offense, and they're not making as many mistakes. And they're rushing the plays and doing the things at the line of scrimmage that I like with the Dallas Cowboys, the old Green Bay Packer way. 31 for 38, 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard had a decent day, 25 carries, 72 yards against a very good front seven. I like what I saw, obviously, with CeeDee Lamb. I expect him to put up the numbers every single week. And here's the thing. Sauce Gardner should be taking CeeDee Lamb, okay? The whole game. I do not know what Ulbrich and Saleh was doing, because if CeeDee Lamb was defended by Sauce Gardner, he doesn't put up 11 receptions and 143 yards. He probably puts up 11 receptions, 63 yards or something like that. Or maybe
he doesn't even have 11 catches. He probably has 5.
5, whatever. I mean, he doesn't put up these numbers. I don't understand it. Tony Pollard, 7 receptions for 37 yards. They don't have any weapons except CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. If you shut down those 2 guys, you have to the Cowboys depend on their defense and what their defense could do. And by the way, Micah Parsons is an absolutely beast of a man. Okay, he is a beast of a man. I don't even know what more to say. He is the I don't even know what you call him. I don't know who you compare him to, but he's special. He's very special. He's not big. He's not a Reggie White or anything like that. He's 6 foot, probably around 220, but he's so fast off the line, and he can do so many different things. And you can move him inside, you can move him on the outside, you can move him at the safety position to defend any of the tight ends. He's really special. And Zach Wilson, 12 for 27, 170 yards, 1 touchdown to obviously Garrett Wilson, but 3 interceptions. That all happened later in the game, forcing the ball. They couldn't run the ball, and that has a lot to do with Robert Saleh. I don't know what Robert Saleh was doing offensively in this offensive game. And obviously Nathaniel Hackett, when you have a young quarterback that is so much trying to figure out who he is and his identity on the football field, I would run the ball. 4 carries for 9 yards is not enough. Michael Carter, 2 receptions for 8 yards, and then 4 carries for 7 yards for Dalvin Cook. That's not enough, guys. That's not enough. What's the average right there? What did you average? Zach Wilson averaged more than any of their running backs. 5 carries, 36 yards. That's not going to do it for the Jets. Garrett Wilson, 2 receptions, 83 yards and 1 touchdown. He was open the whole day. He probably would have had 250 yards if Zach Wilson could get him the ball. Tyler Conklin, 5 receptions, 50 yards. Alan Lazard, 2 receptions, 23 yards. That's it, guys. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all she wrote for the New York Jets in their offense. And by the way, this offensive line, absolutely putrid. Dwayne Brown needs to be sat. They need to sit him. He's horrible. They need to move Mekhi Becton to the left tackle position, move Elijah Vera Tucker to the right tackle, bring in Tippmann, move him in the middle, move McGovern, or bring in one of the other guys off the bench to put him in the guards with Laken Tomlinson, and there you go. Dwayne Brown stinks. He's an old man. It's not going to work. And if they keep Dwayne Brown at the left tackle position because Robert Saleh is absolutely stubborn, this season is going to go downhill quick. As far as I'm concerned, the defense did not show up this week. And to me, Sauce Gardner should have intercepted the ball, pick 6. It probably would have put the Jets in distance of the game. At one point, it was like 24-10. If Sauce got the interception, it would have been 24-17, and it would have been somewhat of a game. That didn't happen. None of it happened. The Jets stink as far as I'm concerned right now. And going into week number 3 against the Patriots, it doesn't smell pretty for the New York Jets.
All right, speaking of the AFC, Sunday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots. A little bit of controversy at the end of that game. Was it a first down? I thought it was, but again, we have to see if the Patriots would have actually scored on that drive. They still needed a touchdown, but nevertheless, Patriots defense continues to be very good so far to start this season. Raheem Mostert was the big guy for Miami in this game, 121 yards, 2 big touchdown runs, but it made it harder for the passing game to go. And Tyreek Hill shut down to just 40 yards. He did have a touchdown on a nice motion play, but Jalen Waddle, big catch pretty much, and was 86 yards, but pretty much was shut down besides that. But they just have to figure out the running game. The Patriots have to figure out their own running game too. Ramondre Stevenson just 550 yards and a touchdown in that game. They spread the ball around nicely offensively. They had a lot of guys with 5 more catches in that game. They got the tight ends involved, but Miami with just too much talent on their defense and was able to hang on.
Mac Jones was efficient, 31 for 42 again this week, 231 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Stevenson, 15 carries for 50 yards. Mac Jones ran the ball, which is surprising. Ezekiel Elliott, 5 carries for 13 yards. Devontae Parker had one of his better games as a New England Patriot. 6 receptions for 57 yards. Hunter Henry, again, has another good day. 6 receptions, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 5 receptions, 33 yards. I expect them to use a lot of tight end packages against the New York Jets this week because the Jets have had problems against stopping tight ends. I know it's early, but they've had problems year in and year out since Robert Saleh has been there. And to me, the Dolphins are explosive. I expect them to be good. 21 for 30, 249 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Tua. I think Tua just has to be efficient, and this team is going to be explosive. Mostert has been fantastic. 18 carries, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If he stays healthy for a full season, this could be a fun year for the Dolphins. And Jalen Waddle had his game and had his day over Tyreek Hill, who still had a touchdown in the game, by the way. 4 receptions, 86 yards for Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions for 40 yards and 1 touchdown. Crockraft had 2 receptions, 34 yards. And Braxton Berrios at least caught 2 balls. Ex-New York Jet, 2 receptions, 28 yards, almost scored a touchdown. So the Dolphins are explosive, and this smells trouble for the New York Jets because they're going home against the New England Patriots 0-2, and they cannot go 0-3. When teams go 0-3, they usually don't make the playoffs, and this is a divisional game. The Jets need it. The Patriots need it. This could be, if the Jets lose this game and the Patriots win this game, this could be the end for the New York Jets. If the Jets win the game and the Patriots lose the game, it could be the end of the New England Patriots this year.
Yeah, Bill Belichick has not gone 0-2 since 1993. Nevertheless, 0-3 probably ever in his coaching career. All right, Monday Night Football, the first game, the Saints and the Panthers. Expected low-scoring game, but the Saints proving their defense.
Derek Carr.
Yeah, Derek Carr
made the throws that he needed to make.
Derek Carr with a couple clutch deep throws. That beautiful catch by Olave in the third quarter. Then the 2 catches by Rashid.
Another special wide receiver, by the way.
Rashid Shaheed has really been the breakout, though, with Kamara suspended from the receiving standpoint. A gadget-type player that's really looked good. Taysom Hill had some nice creative plays in that game as well. And that offensive line was still not great for the Saints, but they were able to make it work with the offense. Their defense, though, has not missed a beat. They lost a couple players in the offseason on that defensive line. They were still able to get a lot of pressure against Carolina, who, like we talked about, was one of the better offensive lines last season. But Carolina's offensive line this year, definitely not the same. And Bryce Young does not look great under pressure so far. Now, like I was saying with the Bears, I do think the Panthers have to stretch the field a little more, but I do think Bryce Young does look a little timid still in the pocket, which is not good.
Derek Carr, I know he didn't throw a touchdown and he threw an interception, but he was 21 for 36, 228 yards. He was efficient. He made the important throws at the end of the game to get them the win. Taysom Hill, 9 carries for 75 yards, 8.33 an average, which is ridiculous. Tony Jones, 12 carries, 34 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Great game for him. And then Chris Olave, like you said, Speedy, 6 receptions, 86 yards, 11 targets. I think that this team needs to get Michael Thomas more involved. I know he had 7 receptions, 55 yards, but he is going to be very, very important if this team is going to challenge in their division and in the playoffs with some of the teams that are in their division playing pretty good football right now. I like what they are. I like what they could do defensively, and I like what their offensive line has done for Derek Carr, keeping him on his feet. And I think Derek Carr is very happy he decided to go to the Saints and not the Jets, because that offensive line has been putrid. As far as Bryce Young is concerned, 22 for 33, 153 yards and 1 touchdown. He's looked horrible. He has not looked good. Everybody thought he was the best quarterback in this class. I know it's still early, but Richardson looked pretty good. C.J. Stroud's looked pretty good, and he has looked putrid. Miles Sanders, 14 carries for 43 yards. Bryce Young, 2 carries for 34 yards. They're not running the ball enough. Adam Thielen's their number 1 target. He had 7 receptions for 54 yards and 1 touchdown. It's not enough. And Jonathan Mingo, who you liked. I did. And a lot of people liked in fantasy, 3 receptions, 26 yards. It's not going to get it done with 8 targets. You need to get the kid more involved. But all in all, I love what the Saints are. I love what the Saints are going to be in their division. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be one of the powerhouses in the NFC when they figure it out completely. I think this team is even better than it is. So I love what I see with the Saints so far.
All right, and we talked about it earlier, the last game, the Browns and the Steelers, very ugly football. The Steelers basically winning with 2 defensive touchdowns in that game. Pick 6 in the first quarter, fumble recovery for a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Beyond that, there wasn't much to like with the Steelers. Their offense still was very inefficient. Jalen Warren has actually been a nice second-year running back for them, because Najee Harris has been kind of up and down to start the year so far, and that offensive line has still had their issues for the Steelers, but their defense was able to rush the passer. Deshaun Watson looked like he was making some bad decisions at certain points too. They were able to contain Amari Cooper. And Deshaun Watson, you got to learn how to stiff arm. You got 2 face mask penalties on stiff arms.
He still looked pretty good. I know everybody says he's making that kind of money. He should be putting up 300 yards. He shouldn't be throwing interceptions. He only had 1 touchdown. But he does everything else good when it comes to a quarterback. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball on the run. He takes pressure off the offensive line, which he did in that game. Deshaun Watson, 22 for 40, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jerome Ford looked sensational when he took over for Nick Chubb. And by the way, it was a horrible injury when Nick Chubb was playing good football. 10 carries for 64 yards, 6.4 a carry. He looked really good on the field. He looked like he was going to be explosive throughout the game. Ford took over and he didn't miss a beat. And I don't know what's going on with Pittsburgh's run defense, which was pretty good last year. They got to play better. They got to play better. And as far as the offense is concerned, Amari Cooper, that was not 100% healthy, 7 receptions, 90 yards. I was very surprised about that. And he was actually a game-time decision, and he actually told the coach, even though the coach didn't want him to play, that he was ready and he wants to play. So he had a pretty good game. David Njoku, 4 receptions, 48 yards. Elijah Moore had his best game, which doesn't say much about who he is as a wide receiver. Yeah, 3 receptions, 36 yards. David Bell, 3 receptions for 27 yards. All in all, I like what I see with the Browns. I think the Browns are going to be a dangerous team. They still have to figure things out. The offensive line is much better than they showed in game number 2. I think they're one of the better offensive lines in football. Here's the problem. Kenny Pickett is not good. 15 for 30, 22 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's not going to get it done. Even though they won, it was all because of TJ Watt and that defense. They put up a 28 spot in fantasy football this weekend. But Najee Harris, 10 carries, 43 yards. You need to get Najee more involved in the game. And then finally, they got George Pickens involved. And when he did it, and he should have gotten him involved early in the game because he was playing. The Browns were playing one-on-one with him. I didn't understand that. 4 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown. Jalen Warren, 4 receptions, 66 yards. Allen Robinson, 2 receptions for 12 yards. I expect more of Allen Robinson. I also expect more George Pickens moving forward now that Johnson could be out for 4 to 5 weeks. So I was very surprised Pittsburgh won this game. I really thought the Browns were the better team. But Pittsburgh shows you, and that's why their coach has been there for, 12 years, 13 years.
Second longest tenured coach.
And Mike Tomlin, he's been fantastic, and he's had a winning record every single year he's been there. So that's why they have winning records, and that's why they've been as good as they have been year in and year out, even with a bad quarterback like Kenny Pickett.
All right, before we go to break, let's parlay on. I'm just reading some of Carl's comments. He was mentioning that the Bears are throwing too many screen passes, and there's no way they should have thrown one at the 5-yard line. Obviously, they gave him the pick six and cost them that game. Dolphins being able to show they will win in different ways. Kamara coming back in 2 weeks will be a big boost for the Saints. Watson does not look like the twitchy athlete he was previously.
It's early.
May take some time to come back still, but still doesn't look as fluent as he used to.
It's early, and I believe he's very elusive, and he still has the legs and the ability that he has on throwing on the run. I think he's still figuring it out. He's been out of the game for 2 years. Last year he came out, he came back in week 12, and I didn't expect him to put up those numbers in week 12. I expect him, as this season goes, his numbers will go up, and I expect him to be explosive, and I expect him to be one of the better quarterbacks, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. But you're right, Carl. I think he's been not as elusive as he was when he was a top-notch quarterback / runner when he was over there with the Texans. But I think as the season moves forward, I think he's going to have to use his legs now that Nick Chubb is not there. I cannot trust Kareem Hunt. That's why they didn't sign him. They didn't want to bring him back. There was a reason for that. And I think they like Jerome Ford, but is Jerome Ford big enough to handle the beating and the abuse that he is going to handle week in and week out like Nick Chubb did? That's all the questions that only the Browns and Jerome Ford is going to have to answer moving forward. And the offensive line is one of the better offensive lines in football, even though they're dealing with injury. And that's one of the reasons why I think this team and this offense has not exploded like I thought they were going to do early in the season. But I think it'll change. I do. I think Cleveland is going to fight in this division, especially with the Bengals where they are, and obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, it looks like it's the Baltimore's division to win, and everybody else is to try to catch up on. So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting moving forward during the season. When we come back, let's parlay here on the Sports Loudmouth.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, this is the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth, which airs every Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. now during the winter and the fall. So enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen. For all the kids out there that are going to bed early and they want to listen to the show, they can tune in throughout the week, 7 to 10, moving forward on our network. Go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. No, we don't have Derek, ladies and gentlemen. Nope, we don't have the John, but we have GMF John and Worldwide Wes for Let's Parlay.
Parlay, ole, ole, ole. It's time for Let's Parlay.
All right, Wes. All right. They're 1-1. You have a smile on your face. It wasn't a big win, that's for sure. And Patrick Mahomes has not looked good for the last 2 weeks. But, hey, he looks good when it comes to his pockets, making and having the and getting the biggest contract in NFL history from the Kansas City Chiefs, making himself $56 million a year now, which is ridiculous. We're going to see a $100 million player, that's for sure.
He's a team-friendly guy. I think that deal is going to be short-lived. He's going to restructure. He's going to take some bonus money. I mean, he's a team-friendly guy, and he is tied into so many different things that make him money outside of football. And him and Kelsey, they know that as long as they keep winning, they're going to make money elsewhere. But all I got to do in order for you to owe me is the Chiefs to be better than third place in the division. Doesn't look difficult. John lives in Vegas. He could speak to the Raiders and what a disappointment that can be week to week. And the Broncos and the Chargers, I feel good.
You look good right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. I mean, obviously, I do not believe the Chargers are as bad as they look. And by the way, Denver defensively, and I'll say this again, they looked so much better last year defensively, and now Peyton's there, and their defense is completely falling apart. Their offense still needs to figure it out. So I think Russell Wilson will figure it out. I think he's still the explosive player that we remember him as Seattle. Maybe a couple of steps back, but he still could be explosive. I think Denver's a lot better than they've shown. So
I think they are too, but offense drives defense. When you got some points on the board, the defense now can predict what the opposing offense is going to do. I mean, we've all seen it. You look at all those Colts teams that Peyton Manning was a part of. There was not great personnel on those defenses, but when Peyton Manning puts you up 10-0, that defense gets out there with a little bit more swagger, and they know how they need to go after it. So I think Peyton's got the right approach. Russell Wilson statistically is not performing poorly. As long as we compare him to the contract and last year's performance, the dude doesn't stand a chance. But I'll take him over at least half of the quarterbacks that are playing right now. I'll take him over the Deshaun Watson contract all day, every day.
How are you, GMF Johnny?
I'm doing very good. Very good. Thank you for asking, man. How you guys doing?
We're good, man. I know you're doing well. I mean, your show is now out, right?
Not yet. Technically, it is. Listen, I don't know what's going on with the production crew, the rate it's going. This better be an Emmy Award show at their rate. But you want to know what? That's not my background. So whatever they got to do to get it out, but hopefully soon. Every time I feel like I'm saying hopefully soon, but we'll see what happens.
You know what's so crazy is that you put all that time. You were there for what, a month? Dealing with the production, the fighting, the arguing, and all the craziness that goes on in that house. And then you're sitting here, you're done, you go home, and everybody's like, oh, when's the show coming out? When's it coming out? John, when's it coming out? I don't know. It's the production crew. I don't know.
It's the production crew. Yep. And you want to know what? In all due defense, I don't really know. I'm not a TV guy. I don't know what necessarily goes behind the scenes and what's involved. What we were filming for 12 hours, so I don't know every day. But
honestly,
again, I don't know.
Speedy cuts more video and more footage than probably any of those guys have in the month.
I believe it.
So.
Hey, we might have to fly Speedy out for the next one. Then.
I think Speedy would do a better job.
John, you got any embarrassing moments that aren't going to make TV that you want to share with us?
Actually, there is going to be one. I can't say it yet. I got to wait till it first airs because I don't want to give nothing away. But let's just say on the first night, I almost got kicked off the show. On the first night.
Boy, good for you.
Yeah. There was a little bit of alcohol involved in that situation too.
That's a tease. That's a good tease.
There's no
You didn't break any rules with that tease. I don't.
No. So we'll see. Hopefully soon. I keep saying it, but who knows?
Knowing my personality, everybody says pick a room. I probably pick the bathroom and sleep in the shower or something like that. That's what I probably would have did, and that would have made me stand out in the show. I was like, what is this guy doing?
What is this guy doing? That might have been
my favorite place to be. Anyways, when I'm home, I'm in the bathroom. I'm on the toilet, man. It's my favorite place to be.
Wes, I see you got the wine there. Maybe we should be World Wine Wes for tonight.
I'll take it. A nice subtle French Sauv Blanc.
Oh man! All right.
Wow.
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna have Wes and GMF John. You're gonna give us your top 4 picks. Wes will go first, then you, John. Back and
Sounds
forth
good.
all the way your 4 pick, and your 4th pick will be your parlay pick. Obviously, we call it Let's Parlay. So, you ready, Speedy? Let's go. Wes, give us your first one.
So this is very un-West-like because I'm going to leave the CFL alone for this week. I am posting picks for my members, but I'm going to leave it alone on this show. 3 teams have clinched playoff spots, so we'll leave it alone. CFL has been great to us. We're still right at 69%. But I'm going to go to college. And the first game I'm going to call out is Wisconsin against Purdue. Tanner Mordecai is good for a breakout game. When you look at this college lineup this weekend, there's a lot of marquee matchups, and that's where the square bettors are going to put their attention. They're going to look at Ohio State and Notre Dame. They're going to look at the Colorado game. They're going to look at those games that there's no value. There really isn't. And they're coin flip games, even though we're looking at 3 points on the Ohio State and the Notre Dame matchup and 21 points on Colorado, Oregon. Those are the games you want to watch, but that's not where guys like me and John are paying our bills. So I'm going to go to Wisconsin first. I think Tanner Mordecai is due a breakout game. This was one of the best quarterbacks in the country that wasn't talked about last year at SMU. And Wisconsin is going to Purdue. They've been toying with opponents the first couple games. Their defense is getting better. Their run game, their O-line is just simply better than what they're going to face in Purdue. And I'm going to lay 6 points. This spread opened at 6.5. It dropped to 6. I have no idea why. Wisconsin's a better team, top to bottom. I'm laying 6 points, and I would probably lay 7.
All right, GMF John, give us your first pick.
All right, first pick of the day. We're going to cruise into that Thursday night game. Let's get right into it. NFL. We all know everybody loves the primetime games. That's Wes's favorite, right? Prime time.
Even NFC East team, no less.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we're going to make it nice and easy. We're going to take the 49ers team total. I'm getting over 13.5 at about minus 160, 165, depending on where you shop around. Kind of a slow start for the Niners last week. We all know the troubles that the Giants have had so far. They should be able to put up 14 points. I feel comfortable laying that first half team total over 13.5.
All right, Wes, give us your second.
I'm going back to college, and I'm going Tennessee right now. This matchup, UTSA was a year ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago, but
this was 2 years ago. Yeah,
this is a breakout team that covered every single spread. They were undefeated against the spread until way deep into the season. They don't have the same roster. They have the same coach, but they don't have the same roster. Tennessee is coming off of a really embarrassing loss. Now they're going back home. Top to bottom, Tennessee has better athletes. I don't like laying this many points, but again, in the spirit of staying away from these marquee games and just looking for somebody to beat up and bully an opponent that they're better than, Tennessee's better at quarterback. They're better at running back. They're just bigger. I'm laying 20.5. Tennessee, I believe, is going to hang at least 40 points on UTSA.
All right, Mr. Johnny Boy, give us your second pick.
All right, second pick. I'm going to go to college football too on a Saturday. I'm going to stick with my over theme. We're going to go over 59 in Buffalo, the ULL Raging Cajuns. Buffalo is a team that's given up a tremendous amount of points the first 3 games of the year. 38 to Wisconsin. They gave up 40 to Fordham. Let's go Fordham Rams, baby. Yeah. They gave up 56 to Liberty. ULL has put up 38, 38, and 40. I think this is going to be an over that you could possibly see get cleared in the first half, similar to a game that Buffalo played last week against Liberty. Buffalo hasn't been able to stop anybody. I'm going to take that over 59 comfortable all day, all week.
All right, Mr. West, give us your third pick.
I like John's call on Buffalo there. I'm going to the NFL, and I'm going to go with the Washington football team or the Washington Commanders. I am taking the 6.5 points. 79% of the action is on the Buffalo Bills in this game, and the line has not moved from 6.5. I look at 7 and 3 as major numbers in the NFL. When it crosses over 3 to 3.5 on the spread, that's a game-changing number for me. When it crosses from 7 to 7.5 or from 7 to 6.5, that changes the game for me as well. But when I look at this, Washington is averaging 27 points a game. That's a well-coached defensive team. They're not getting bad quarterback play. They're getting really good play out of the running back. Josh Allen is coming off of a really good performance. What does that mean? Well, that means he's going to throw Washington the ball once or twice. The only question is, does Washington catch it? But Washington has been a good defensive team, but the line movement on this, when you see 79% of the action on one side and the line doesn't move, again, I want to be in bed with the guys on the other side because it's either smart money or the casino supporting that line. I'm taking 6.5. I'm not making a prediction as to who wins the game. I like the 6.5. I think Washington keeps it close. I think Josh Allen makes some mistakes. There's some weird things in that Buffalo locker room. Buffalo has won their games in really odd scenarios against vulnerable opponents. So I'm taking the 6.5.
Johnny boy, what do you got for your third pick?
All right. Well, actually, I'm going to stick with that Buffalo-Washington game, too. Instead, I'm going to be on the over in that game, buying the hook down to 43. It's 43.5 here in Vegas. Kind of a similar situation where Washington, I see, has been able to score some points. And similar to, once again, what Wes said, I feel like Josh Allen is going to throw at least one pick. I think Washington is going to be able to capitalize off of that. And I think we're going to see a high-scoring game. I think they should be able to crush that over, too, as well.
Interesting. All right. Your final picks. Mr. West, give us your parlay pick.
So staying in the NFL, and again, you have to look at line movement. And it's really difficult in today's world. I mean, Chaz, John, we can talk about how easy it was 5 years ago to see line movement because now you have so much access to the public and what they're betting. And so the $20 tickets all combined in some scenarios can really equal more. But I'm looking at 59% of the public on the Chargers. The spread opened at 1.5 and it has not moved. It moved to 0.5. So Minnesota is still a dog in this game. And somehow there's reverse line movement. Minnesota is the better team top to bottom. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I think he's finally starting to get recognized as that. Minnesota is a top 5 passing offense in this league. This is in the dome. And then when you look at the move they just made, I don't know that Akers is going to see the field, but the fact that Minnesota made that move and acknowledged a weakness, that has to be good for morale in the locker room. I think the Chargers are going the wrong direction as far as morale in the locker room. They're number 32 against the pass in the entire league, going up against one of the top quarterbacks currently, statistically. I love Minnesota in the dome. I'm laying 1 point and taking Minnesota virtually in a game.
That's what the Chargers do. They lose by more than usually 1 or 2 points everywhere.
This one is a no-brainer to me, and there's so much popularity on that Chargers play. I don't know why. I just can't see it.
Chaz, did you see the thing I texted you with the Chargers?
Yeah, here's the thing. You know what? I'm just being a professional because that's what I do. I mean, these guys know me a long, long time, and I'm a professional. But this Errol disrespecting me crap is getting old, and I know where you guys live. I've been there, man. I just show up at your freaking door. I don't care if you're in the bathroom. You think I care if you're on the toilet? That's going to stop me.
Well, listen, John, to give you guys context, I texted this to Chaz.
Yeah.
Chargers have scored 58 points, have 0 turnovers, so they're the first team in NFL history to be 0-2 when doing that.
Think about that.
Only the Chargers.
They protect the ball. They put up 58 points in 2 games, and they got squat to show for it. I have one more comment. Are you done with the other guys being able to do picks?
No, John has one more.
All right, well, then I'll go over my comments because I got some comments that I want to ask these guys some questions. I haven't seen John in a month and a half, man.
been busy. All right, so good. Let's go to the last one, and let's go to I'm going to go jump on that Colorado-Oregon game, but I'm not touching any of the points. I'm going to kind of be a fanboy and take the over in this spot. I think there's going to, once again, a lot of points scored in this team on both sides of the ball for Colorado and Oregon. They should be able to put up 35 in each of that. We're going to see, obviously, the defensive injury that took part in Colorado probably is going to play a big factor. So I think Oregon's going to be able to move the ball, and we're going to see how that goes. 71, over 71 in that one.
All right, so we have Worldwide West's picks, or we could call them Black Hawk West or
World Wine West.
World Wine West. And GMF John, we got his 4 picks, so we got their parlays, and now we've got Chaz. What do you have to say over there, man? First of all, if I'm on the toilet, you're not going to walk into my bathroom. That's for sure.
I wanted to talk to Wes because I saw an article because we sell Chiefs football, so I'm on the Chiefs social media, and I saw an article, pissing and moaning about not having Bieniemy and how well he's doing in Washington. But if I remember when he first started, he was getting some pushback because he's aggressive, right? And I'm thinking, well, that's what it takes to win, guys. That's why you don't win, And B, did Kansas City lose out?
I don't know, because Nagy was a big factor in recruiting Patrick Mahomes. And I think that Nagy's the real Patrick Mahomes whisperer. And statistically, he was statistically better with Nagy than he was with Bieniemy. And I think Bieniemy got too big to where he's on that. He's one of those fringe guys about to take a head coaching job. So I don't know that Casey lost. If you take the Chiefs and you go back to the first Super Bowl that they won, they had a really miserable October. Like, they weren't the best team in football. They won a tournament and Mahomes got hot. Mahomes had a really terrible October, throwing interceptions. And so it's TBD on the Nagy versus Bieniemy. I think Bieniemy probably lost in the whole deal, because if he ends up the head coach for the Washington football team, he's got Sam Howell as his quarterback, and he had Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Howell's done well with Bieniemy, and I think he is the next coach of the Washington Commanders. I do. I've been saying that, and I do believe Ron Rivera, win or lose this year, he is going to be let go, or he's going to retire, whatever he's going to do. I do not believe he's keeping.
There are some coaches. We have this conversation in my house probably 16 of the 19 weeks of the regular season, whatever it is now. There's just some guys that are meant to be coordinators. That's it. They're meant to be coordinators. That's it. That's the facts. And
Nathaniel Hackett, he's on the Jets.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that. But remember, the Hackett got whacked by the Saints guy, who's now the Denver guy, right? In a verbal put down, and then his team looks terrible. The Saints Denver looks terrible.
I don't know that I put Rivera in that category, though, Chaz, of who's meant to be coordinators. I mean, this is a coach that went to a Super Bowl and had one of the best defenses in the league.
He's a great coach, but the bottom line is his teams never offensively get to the level where they can win in the NFL. There's 8 good teams. They have 8 divisions. 8 teams win. 7 of them usually have winning records. There's always that one team, right? The one division. Sometimes it was the AFC East. It was the Jacksonville division, where they're 7-9 and they get in, or now they'll be, 8-10 or whatever it is. It's funny because every year it seems like there's more weeks, more games. Everything's weird. That the preseason just disappeared on us, didn't it? I mean, it just disappeared. One year, preseason was gone.
Chaz, I think more than half of those teams won.
Yeah, we got back-to-back Monday night weeks. What was that, Petey?
Yep. I was going to say, I think at least more than half of those teams that were 8-8 or 7-9 to get in the playoffs have won their first playoff game. So.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton hasn't won without the great quarterback. So we have to see what Sean Payton does with Russell Wilson and how it transitions, because Russell Wilson has looked decent, but I think he still doesn't look like the same Russell Wilson that was in Seattle. If he could get to that, even get halfway to that, then they have something. If he doesn't,
there's
they're
a
never
graph
going to get over that edge.
There's a graph out there. You may have seen it. The older you get, the lower your quality goes. I mean, the bottom line is he's not a kid anymore.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, that's not true, because Aaron Rodgers got better as he got older. So
okay.
Quarterbacks that do get better.
All right. There's 14 Aaron Rodgers running around, right?
I know. I'm just saying. There are quarterbacks that get better when they get older.
Joe Montana could probably lead the Guinness commercial.
Kirk Cousins.
He could walk off a Guinness commercial, go in with some of these teams in the NFL. And you remember, Les, you were telling me about the commercial with the old guys?
Yeah.
Joe Montana could probably start on 2 teams in the NFL.
Errol,
one hand on a Guinness bottle.
I gotta say though, Errol, and this is probably a bigger topic, but I don't know that Sean Payton's the answer.
No,
I don't.
I don't think so.
He won a Super Bowl, and I think that what he did in New Orleans at a time when that city was really at its lowest is the value and the impact is overstated. And he does have a winning record as a head coach, but it very rarely works when these coaches go away and come back. It just doesn't work very well. Gibbs did it. It didn't work. Sean Payton had Drew Brees, a historic quarterback, and they just caught lightning in a bottle in a weak division that wasn't competitive for a long time. I think that this Russell Wilson is better as a quarterback than what Sean Payton is about to be as a coach with Denver.
That's interesting.
No arguing. I agree with that. And the other thing is, though, look at the difference between John Elway and in San Francisco. The kid from here is from San Diego. What's his name? That's running.
Justin Herbert?
No, the GM.
Oh, the GM.
John Lynch.
John Lynch, right. And the bottom line is those are two totally different run organizations, and John Lynch is an incredibly successful executive.
They got it right in San Francisco. They're getting every position put into place, and then we'll find the right quarterback to go push the button.
Well, when you have a dozen of them on your roster and everybody wants one of them.
Hold on. First of all, the whole Kyle Shanahan thing, he took over for Jim Harbaugh, who actually took this team to the Super Bowl. This was a good team with Colin Kaepernick. This was a very good, well-built machine. And yes, after Jim Harbaugh left, and the team was falling apart, there were still some pieces that were still there. When Kyle Shanahan came in and then John Lynch came in, they had the top pick? They had Nick Bosa. I mean, getting Nick Bosa had changed everything for them because he is everything to their defense. Without Nick Bosa this year, if he didn't sign that contract, which we all knew he was going to get that contract, but if he didn't and he wasn't in this defense, he wasn't on this defense wouldn't be explosive like it is. He commands everybody on that offensive line to shift. And you have to bring in extra tight ends to block him, and you still can't stop him. So that's the difference. When John Lynch came in, he had that pick, and it was pretty much sitting there. Go ahead, pick up one of the best defensive players in the league. It's going to change everything for your defense. And it did.
I agree, but most GMs wouldn't have the balls to navigate through what they just went through at quarterback. They drafted a quarterback. They had to publicly admit they were wrong, trade him elsewhere. The Jimmy G thing, to put Brock Purdy in place, a 7th-round pick, the move they made to get Christian McCaffrey. We can't sit here and throw John Lynch under the bus because he's made some moves. Even if they fail, he's made some moves saying we're gonna go win. A lot of GMs don't make those moves. And Brock Purdy, that's a whole other conversation because I remember the college year calling it Brocktober because he was lighting up top.
Wes, you could be the quarterback for that team right now. Come on, man. That offensive line is fantastic.
They got so many weapons on that team.
Yeah,
they're good. They're just good. And you know what? When you got a guy like McCaffrey and you can put him with a guy like Samuel, oh my goodness gracious, that doesn't seem fair.
And Ayuk.
Ayuk had a great first week.
You put all these pieces together, and then you don't pay your quarterback, which is going to cost you 50 plus if you do. But you put all these pieces together, and then you just put the right quarterback in place that's going to be on a rookie contract, which is where San Francisco has lived these last couple of years. It's smart business, and it's probably where the future's going with this.
Wes, let me tell you something. I'm gonna say this very, very nicely for all those San Francisco fans out there that absolutely adore them as an organization. This is an organization that hasn't won in a very long time. That's one. Number two, what has Kyle Shanahan done as a head coach in the Super Bowl besides choke? Okay, as an offensive coordinator and as a coach, the guy chokes. He stops running the ball. He's up every single fourth quarter. He was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons when they were up, 27-10 or 28-10. They lost that game because he stopped running the ball. And what happened against Kansas City with 6-7 minutes left of the game? He stopped running the ball when they had a 10-point lead and they lose against Kansas City.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that game. I mean, my son will be attending Patrick Mahomes' middle school because of that game. I got a ring from that joke.
He stinks in the big game. So to me, it don't matter if they win or lose. When they go to the Super Bowl, they're going to lose because the guy doesn't know how to handle the pressure. He's not his father. Okay. And everybody, Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan wasn't a good coach without John Elway. Okay. So those are the facts. I think he's a great offensive coordinator in regular season, and he finds a way to win in certain games in the playoffs. But when it comes to the big game, when it comes to calling the plays at the end of the game, which helps his team win, the guy stinks. And that's all I'm going to say about him. And everybody's, this coach. And there might be 2 coaches in the NFL right now that you can trust. If they go to the Super Bowl, there's a good chance they're going to win. And you know who those 2 guys are: Bill Belichick and Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't trust anybody else. So Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan. It's like I can make sounds for every single coach in this league. They all.
Well, I don't know. You know what? I would say that you can make a good sound for the Detroit coach because it's kind of hard not to like that
Campbell,
guy.
what has he done?
You know what? Understand, it's one of the worst organizations in the history of sports. You know what? The Ford family has owned that for how long? And they brutalized their fans. They should have charges put against them.
How many first-round draft picks have they had in the last 4 years?
Okay, when you suck,
me and you could turn this team into a good team with first.
But you just said that with Bosa. The bottom line is,
I'm talking. Bosa's one guy. They had like 6.
I'm listening.
In 3 years.
I know you're the host and you're going to talk, but just listen for a second. What I'm saying is, you can't say, well, they got Bosa and they didn't get people, because that's what it is. It's not the coaches that make the draft choices. It's not the players. It's the organization. And if you have consistently stinky teams and you're trying to fill it with one guy, they always do the stupid thing. They go for skill players. They don't build with the line. Everybody knows you win from the ball out. You build up your line. You go with your defensive line, your offensive line. You get the skill players. Like Wes is saying, when you don't even have to pay the quarterback position, you could spread 50 mil around pretty good, you know?
Chaz, let me ask you a question. Who was hired first, Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch?
I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is John Lynch has won.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you.
John Lynch has won everything he's done in his life.
Did I tell you? Kyle Shanahan was hired. Who hired John Lynch? Kyle Shanahan. So let me tell you something. When they're making those picks, Kyle Shanahan has every right to make those picks just as much as John Lynch. So trust me, it's not just John Lynch making those picks. It's Kyle Shanahan too.
Okay, all I'm saying is that when you're good, when the front office is good, you don't get first round picks every year. When the front office sucks, you get first round picks every year because they blow the first round picks. How many great first round picks have Detroit had? They've had a lot of them. These are players that on paper were supposed to be great, but something in Detroit, something's just sucks the life out of these guys. I don't know what it is.
How did this turn into a bash San Francisco? Because the last time I checked, they're one of the best performing teams in the league.
I'm not bashing them. I just said that they don't win the big game.
They're a perennial playoff team. They were in conference championship, Super Bowl, all in the last couple of years. They lost the Super Bowl to Mahomes, which a lot of people are going to do that before.
Listen to this guy.
No, on my parlay ticket I got in New Orleans, they were the highest odds, or the lowest odds, depending on what you're looking at it. They were minus 200 to win their division. Nobody else was.
Wes, this is the problem here. When was the last time San Francisco won? And that's the problem.
You could say
last year, John, we were in Vegas with you last year, weren't they in the playoffs there with the third string quarterback?
Yes, that's when they got hurt.
Yeah,
they went to the NFC title game.
But Errol, we can all ask that same question about a lot of teams in the league. When's the last time they won a Super Bowl? If you were to look at the last 20 years, there's a very small number of teams that won the Super Bowl and a good amount that have won more than once. You look at Baltimore winning it more than once. You look at the Chiefs winning it more than once. The Patriots owned the last 20 years. The Eagles, like you start to look at the teams that haven't won a Super Bowl. we're less than half the teams in 20 years. You can't call San Francisco a bad organization for that.
I didn't say they were a bad. I didn't say they were a bad organization. I said they're not a winning organization. They
I
haven't
think what
won
you
in
said
over 20
in your
years.
defense, you said that he can't win big games. Is what
He can't.
Yeah.
He hasn't.
Made it to a Super Bowl, a conference,
but he didn't win the big game. That's the big game. That's what you're there for. Why are you going to listen? I'm a Jet fan. Okay, they went to back years to the AFC title game. Big whoop. Because as a Jet fan, they didn't win the big game. So I don't care if they went to the AFC title game. You know what I say to Rex Ryan for that? You're lost. And that's all I'm going to say. You're a loser. You don't win the big game. And you could go to the Super Bowl all you want, and you could play against Patrick Mahomes. Hey, Jalen Hurts had a chance to win the Super Bowl last year. Did he? No. He choked at the end of the game. Okay? And I'll say this very simply. Kansas City made the plays to win the game. Even though I thought I thought one way or another, I thought the game was rigged. But that's just my opinion. But that's all I'm going to say about that. But nevertheless, I do believe that when you look at these organizations, I'm not saying San Francisco stinks as an organization. I said they're not a winning organization. They haven't won in over 20 years.
If you were Cleveland, would you trade? Would you, if you were Cleveland, you would happily receive everything that is negative about San Francisco. So there's a lot of teams in the league that would love to have the problems of the team that you are pissing on right now.
I'm not pissing on them. I just said that.
You gotta love the whole Deshaun Watson thing in Cleveland, though, because just bring the boats, bring more boats, put more money in the boats, and just get them boatloads of money, and then you know what? It's Cleveland. It's Cleveland. It's going to end up being Cleveland.
The second he signed the contract with Cleveland, you knew he was going to be done for in his career. The second Johnny Manziel got drafted by Cleveland, you knew he was garbage. Just like, and I grew up in Chicago, but I cry for Justin Fields because the day he was drafted, all he did for Buckeye Nation is going to be flushed down the toilet, and he will forever be a draft bust. There's just certain organizations, the second they draft somebody,
the Jets,
their career's over.
Well, I mean, when Cleveland's on prime time, it takes 2 pages to show their quarterbacks. They can't do it on just one screen. They got to go to the second screen to show how many quarterbacks they've had in the time you're talking about, 20 years, 30 years.
I will say there are coaches that can help quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan's one of them. He knows how to work a quarterback and have them run his system. Same thing with Dable. I think he's the quarterback whisperer. He knows how to run a system. He's an offensively sound coach that understands how to help a quarterback grow. So there are coaches in the league over the years. Sean Payton has been known to be a coach, a quarterback coach. Norv Turner is another guy that was a quarterback coach, even though he was a horrible
Who did
coach.
Sean Payton coach and make better? Please elaborate, sir.
Well, hold on one second. You sit here. Jameis Winston, when he was there, he was a better quarterback over there than he was over there in Tampa Bay. Was he not?
When he was in Tampa Bay, he was at one of the top passing yards in the league. But
stop. And he threw more interceptions than God. Okay. Right? Stop. I mean, the guy threw like 30. I think he broke
30,
a record.
40,
35 interceptions in 1 year. I mean, he was horrible there.
J-Mo was one of the top clutch second half quarterbacks that I've ever seen in college.
Yeah, he was. Florida State. I'm a Florida State Seminole fan.
And so, I mean, second
also
half
steals a lot of crab legs.
Yeah. now somebody would give him a case of crab legs under the NIL, right?
That's right. You'd have a crab leg sponsorship. Come down to Johnny's Crab House and take some crabs too.
I gotta send you some new crab legs.
All right, gentlemen, you know what? I'm going to slide out of here, but I got your plays. Good luck on those parlays. I bet anything, you guys.
Chaz, you're awesome. Thank you.
These guys told me if Wes told me it was going to be cold in August where John lives, I'd bet the under on the temperature in Vegas. We'll talk to you guys later.
I'm going to disappear too, but I wanted to update because I said I would. Underdogs with money line and underdogs with points, just mindlessly betting as John and I study and try and figure out how to beat the system. Through the first 2 weeks of the NFL, the account is up 12.7%, just blindly betting every underdog money line and every underdog with points. And most of those money line underdogs are actually hitting under on the game total. So I'm not going to stop handicapping and breaking down games, but if you have no desire to break down or get granular, and you just want to bet every single underdog and money line, you're going to win money. And 12% is probably better than your 401k is performing, especially when the Fed keeps raising rates.
That's actually been a big trend, not only this year, but over the last couple of years. If you follow that, if you bet the dogs with the under, if you kind of correlate those two, you'd be up year after year, I think, for the last like 3 or 4 years, at a pretty substantial amount too. So
Does that drive you crazy, John?
What's that?
That if you just do the blind thing,
the
it's
blind
better than what you and I do.
Yeah, you want to. It does, because sometimes it's like, when I'm looking at something and it's like you hear this stat and it's like, just blindly bet it. Like, of course you would have to blindly bet every game that way and do it consistently every week, so it's not like necessarily handicapping a game. But yeah, sometimes when you hear those stats, it does kind of irk me a little bit.
I mean, I could never ever throw a 4 or 5 figure unit at that. I just couldn't. Like
not at all.
To fall on my own sword with units.
Yeah.
All right, boys, we gotta go. We appreciate you guys.
Always
Sounds
be
good,
careful,
guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Wes and John, ladies and gentlemen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure he's on the phone, right?
We're calling him. Greg got stuck in traffic, so he was dealing with. All
right, so we're not going to a break. By the way, we are now going to be talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd. Greg, what's up, man?
Hey guys, sorry I can't be joining you live and living color, and we have to do the phone call here. But as you guys know, I don't know if you've talked about it, but we are literally in dead stop traffic. And I know y'all in New York know about the dead stop traffic and how bad it can be in New York. But man, in Chattanooga, I did not think I would. This is the first time I've ever run into something like this. And of course, it's the day and the night I'm supposed to join you guys again.
You know what's so funny? You have the accent now. You have the Chattanooga accent. Hey, y'all.
Really?
Hey, y'all.
Man, I got that when I was in Louisiana. And I told myself before I went to Louisiana, I said, if I ever start saying y'all, just end it for me. And here we are.
Well, you know what? It brings out the potential cartoon character that you are, my friend. So we're very happy to have you on. We haven't had you on for a while.
You think of me as a cartoon character?
Well, everybody thinks I'm a cartoon character, so
you're the
purple
Urkel.
Yeah, I'm the purple Urkel. That's what they call me. So
I love that. It's always good to be a cartoon character. It makes you fun and whimsical, and you can laugh at yourself. You can laugh at other people. It's never a bad thing as a person to be able to laugh at yourself every once.
Well, I laugh at myself, and I love people laughing at me, not with me. But anyways, as everybody knows, we are talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd. Greg, why don't we get into it, because it's been a crazy early football season, and I know everybody says it's only 2 weeks in. How crazy could it be? Well, it's really crazy because everybody expected the AFC to dominate, and it's been really the NFC the first 2 weeks. What were your thoughts in week one of the Jets losing Aaron Rodgers, one? And number two, what are your thoughts right now in the AFC East right now, as wide as it is open than we never thought it would be?
Man, I'll tell you what, as a Packers fan through and through, I bleed the green and gold. Everybody was like giving me their condolences at work the next day of like Aaron Rodgers with the torn Achilles, this, that, and the other thing. Because I love that man. I have a deep affection for him as a person. I really like him a lot as a person. Obviously devastated for him because I was really excited. He seemed rejuvenated again in his football life, and he goes into the darkness and he comes out and he seems like a new man, and he's like, I'm going to go play and I want to play for the Jets if the Packers don't want me. Obviously, like, he wanted to finish his career with the Packers, but he could always see that there was sort of that writing on the wall. And, I watched some of the Hard Knocks. I didn't get all the way through, but I watched a couple of the episodes, and I just love the renewed energy that he had towards the game of football. And I was just so disappointed and devastated for him that he had to go through that injury. But it seems like he has a really good attitude about it. He seems like, hey, he threw out that, Dark Knight will rise again in Gotham type of thing. And so he's going to try to get his way back, and I'm super happy because, my initial thought, guys, was like, man, you're 39, 40 years old. Like, you just tore your Achilles. Like, I know, like, you kind of, you don't exactly have that Mamba mentality, but, like, he is of that ilk, of that elite level player, and if there's anybody who could do it, it would be him. But I also could see him sort of like, he seemed like he was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, sort of, before he went into the darkness of maybe he just thinks, hey, like, I don't want to go through this rehab. I'm just going to kind of hang it up. So I'm glad that we will, hopefully, knock on wood, get a chance to see Aaron Rodgers and this Jets team and see what it looks like. But right now it's not good for the Jets because they were not anticipating Zach Wilson having to play this early. They thought, all right, he's got a year or two even under Aaron Rodgers to learn, to grow, to gain some of that, soak up some of that knowledge that he has, and seemed like he was really like tuteling Zach Wilson, which I really liked. And I think early on in the season we've seen that maybe behind the scenes he was doing the same thing to Jordan Love, even if it wasn't that way outwardly, because Jordan's played well so far early in the season. And I just feel bad for Zach because he's clearly not ready to be the starting quarterback of the Jets. They were ready for a veteran Pro Bowl level quarterback for them to win. They put all of their eggs in his basket, and it just has not worked out that way. Obviously, with the injury in the first game, 4 snaps in, is there a more Jet thing than Aaron Rodgers?
Thank you, Greg.
Snapping his Achilles, 4 snaps into a season in which there's so high of expectations, it's just so tough. And into the AFC East in general, guys, man, I'll tell you what, I had the Jets pegged as with Aaron Rodgers there as them being the favorites in the AFC East.
So did I.
Yeah, I just don't believe in the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen can do whatever he wants against, a bad team like the Las Vegas Raiders this last weekend. And he can play hero ball and he can look good. His stats will look good, but he plays a good team, a good defense. He tries to play hero ball. He tries to do too much. I don't think Sean McDermott, is able to kind of rein him in enough. And so I just don't believe in that Bills team. And I didn't really believe, or I needed to see a little bit more evidence out of the Miami Dolphins going into the season. And to be honest with you, they've been one of the biggest surprises in the AFC.
Yes.
I've been incredibly surprised and shocked by what they've been able to do. But they got so much speed on that team. And as long as Tua stays healthy, and again, I know that's a big if he's able to stay healthy, I would say right now they're probably the front runners to win the AFC.
They haven't beaten anybody, and that's the thing. I want to see them play a good defense. Everybody says New England's a good defense, and New England played well against the Miami Dolphins, but I still question certain parts of New England's defense and their offensive game. So they haven't beaten anybody. I want to see them go and beat like a San Francisco 49ers team or an Eagles team. When they do that, then we can talk about how good they are, but we don't really know what they are. So
I mean, look, I get what you're saying. We thought coming into the season that the Chargers would be a good team, but they find themselves at 0-2, and they have a bunch of names on that defense.
Yes.
They just haven't played well. And then that offense with Brandon Staley, man, they need to change their head coach. They probably should have done it after this last season. They didn't do it, unfortunately, and they're kind of stuck with where they're at. They have a ton of talent, but they just can't put it together. And, the one thing that I've really liked about this Dolphins team is, you're right, they have not played the cream of the crop. You're absolutely right about that. But just some of these throws that Tua's making,
Yes.
man, I'll tell you what, they are just very pinpoint. The accuracy is good. He's playing with a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence. And when you got those cheetahs on the outside with Waddle and Tyreek Hill, man, it is when they're good and they're on, it is hard to defend. So I get what you're saying, and I'd like to see them against a little bit better competition, but it's not like they played a Raiders defense or they played the Chicago Bears or something like that. They played a couple of decent teams at least. They're not bottom feeders.
So in terms of the running back market, we've seen it as a big story this offseason, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and even some of the ones that are on expiring contracts too. What are your thoughts to a lot of these holdouts that have happened and the way running backs are treated?
It's tough. This has kind of always been a thing for running backs where they have been sort of undervalued a bit in terms of what they're able to do and things like that. And they bring a lot of importance to the team, but the fact of the matter is it's just a lot of turnover in the league. And that's just kind of what it is right now with these running backs you use them and you, for lack of a better term, abuse them for as long as you can get run out of them. And, You know, if you don't have to pay them big money, then okay, we cycle through, we draft another one, and you just keep it kind of moving in that regard. But I wish that it would be a little bit different. And in order for something to change, it's going to have to be like a league-wide sort of holdout for these running backs of like, hey, we're not playing until we get equal compensation. And honestly, there should be a little something different with running backs because, again, their shelf life is so much different. It almost should be like they get like an automatic like pay bump in the beginning maybe of their career, or like when they have like a Pro Bowl season or something like that, some stipulation in their contracts, like if they reach a certain mark, that like, hey, we know your shelf life's not that long. Most of them is not that long. You know, you're going to get a pay bump if you hit X, Y, or Z marks when they run. It's just really tough right now for the running backs. And obviously you see what's happening with Jonathan Taylor. He's not playing. And you mentioned Saquon and he sat out for a little while. And it just seems like until like everybody's willing to sort of sit out, that this is just kind of how it's going to be. And, you know, it is sad because like the NFL is a, you know, billion-dollar business and billions of dollar business. And, you know, you can't go out there and you can't pay these guys who literally put their body on the line. I know all football players do, but like these guys specifically take a ton of hits. And it's sad because they give their body and they give their livelihood up just to run the football and take a lot of contact. And I think they should be paid accordingly because of it. I think it stinks that they're kind of being undervalued because they are a big part of the offense. I mean, I went to the Falcons and Packers game this past weekend, and you know, Aaron Jones not being there changes the way that offense runs. And there's other teams, and Saquon, you know, for sure, and he's going to be out a little while with that ankle, and that's going to make things awfully tough for that offense for the Giants. And, you know, we saw what happened when Breece Hall wasn't in there for the Jets. And I know they got Dalvin Cook now, and that's great. But, you know, those running backs and that running back position is a very important position. And to me, it's going to be here in this region where we cover the Falcons. It's going to be very interesting to me, guys, to see what happens when Bijan Robinson's up for a contract. Because he's a guy that's like, yeah, I'm a running back, but I also am a receiver. I'll catch X amount of balls. It's kind of like back in the day when Jimmy Graham was like trying to make the case of like, hey, don't view me as a tight end. Like, I'm more of a wide receiver. I feel like I should get paid like a wide receiver, not like a tight end, you know?
We are talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd. You know, Greg, there are two surprises in my neck of the woods here. And one of them is the Bengals. They're 0-2. Joe Burrow has not looked good after getting that contract. And another is the Dallas Cowboys. They're 2-0, and they're absolutely dominating defensively. Micah Parsons is like, he's been a madman, you know, with fire on his ass, because all he has to do is when the ball gets hiked, this guy runs through lines. It doesn't matter where he is, on the left side, the right side, the middle. This guy is getting to the quarterback. He's been unbelievable. What are your thoughts to the Dallas Cowboys and their success early, and obviously the woes of the Bengals?
Yeah, I'll start with the Bengals because, you know, man, I'll be honest with you. I was super high on the Bengals this year because I'm thinking, like, this might be, if they can't work out a deal with T. Higgins. And, again, you just mentioned they paid Joe Burrow. They're going to have to pay Jamar Chase soon. Like, guys are going to have to get their money there, and T. Higgins might be kind of the odd man out there. And I was thinking this might be the last year of, like, this huge, big offense that they have Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Boyd and Mixon and all those guys and whatnot. I thought this was going to be a big year for the Bengals, and clearly Joe Burrow's off a little bit. Like, that calf injury is lingering a little bit more and affecting him a little bit more than we all anticipated. And I don't know if he needs to like sit out a week and just to kind of like rest it and heal it up, or if he's able to kind of play through it. I don't know what needs to happen here, but it's not a good start for the Bengals. I had them, you know, winning that division, Burrow going off, being an MVP candidate, maybe getting close to 50 touchdown passes. And look, again, it's only 2 games in. I'm not trying to be, you know, push the panic button too much, but yeah, kind of interesting there that they've gotten off to such a tough start. I think it does have to do with that calf and the offensive line. They try to continue to like try to remake it in front of him. And you know, you think back to that draft in which they did draft, you know, Jamar Chase, and they had Penei Sewell sitting there, and they could have gotten them a bona fide Pro Bowl level offensive lineman, and they didn't do it. And they chose to go the offensive route, and they just haven't been able to put the type of offensive line together that they need to put in front of Joe Burrow. And they better figure that out quick, fast, and in a hurry, because if they don't, he's going to be one of those quarterbacks, sort of like an Andrew Luck, of like, hey, like he was great for when he was in the league, but if only they built up an offensive line around him, could he have been an all-time great? Now, I don't want those questions for Joe Burrow because I love Joe Burrow. I love his swagger, the way he plays the quarterback position. Like, he is just one of my favorites to watch. And on the other side with the Dallas Cowboys, look, like you mentioned that the who hasn't played anybody? The Dolphins. Well, the Cowboys have what? They played the Giants and the Jets, right? So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers loses Jets. I know their defense is good in their own right, but going up against that offensive line, which is leaky, and then Zach Wilson at quarterback, and then they dismantled the Giants on Monday night or Sunday Night Football that first Sunday. So I need to see them play a little bit better competition too before I'm like, hey, the Cowboys are going to be the next best thing, because we've been hearing about America's team, and they're a team that has not made the an NFC Championship game since 1995. Boys, I was 6 years old the last time they made an NFC Championship game. So until they do that, wake me up when they get to the NFC Championship game, because I just don't believe them until we see that.
Wake me up before you go. Except the Cowboys don't go. They just go home. See, the difference is the Cowboys just go home. They don't make it out of there. So
that's true. They don't get woken up. They just go home.
So speaking of your Green Bay Packers, what have been your initial impressions so far of Jordan Love and the way the coaching staff has done with him so far?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. I love what Matt LaFleur has done, and this was one of the biggest gambles in Green Bay Packer franchise history. And moving up in that draft, everybody laughed at you. Everybody, said, question your decision and to take Jordan Love. And this decision is in how he plays is going to determine Matt LaFleur's tenure and Brian Gutekunst, the general manager's tenure in Green Bay. This is where their tenure really starts. Obviously, it's easy to win with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and things like that, but this is where their tenure really starts, and it's gotten off to a really good start. I've been really impressed with what this offense is able to do. Jordan Love looks like he clearly has picked up some things from Aaron Rodgers. He looks like he's confident back there. He's not rattled. He's not shaken. They are the youngest team in the NFL right now. Their median age is 25 years old, and to be able to do what he's been able to do with the lack of weapons, like no Christian Watson, like half of a Romeo Doubs. He's having to play with like a couple of rookie wide receivers, then like a second-year guy in Samaje Toure, like a couple of rookie tight ends, good offensive line for the most part in front of him. There's a veteran offensive line, which is helpful as well. And then obviously you got a couple of veteran running backs, which is also very helpful as a young quarterback who doesn't have a lot of experience. So I love the way Matt LaFleur is running things right now with Jordan Love at the helm. Those young playmakers have been able to make some plays for Jordan Love, which has been good as well. And I don't know. I'm just really impressed. I know they're 1-1, and I know they had that game in hand up 12 points in the fourth quarter, against the Falcons this past weekend. But I was really pleased with what they were able to do offensively. Defensively, I still need to see a little bit more dominance. I'm not sold on Joe Barry. I'm a little disappointed in him because we have so many first-round draft picks invested on that defensive side of the football, and I feel like we should have a Dallas Cowboys type defense or something like that, because we do have some good pieces there. If they're able to figure it out, this team is going to be like a borderline playoff team. I don't know if they're going to win this division. Everybody was kind of talking about the Lions. They have the high of highs of going to Kansas City in that first week and winning an Arrowhead, and then they come back home and they lose to the Seahawks. So it's like, is this a good Lions team, or is this a different Lions team, or is this the Lions like we always remember the Lions being? The Bears seem very lifeless. There's a lot of things going on that happened in that building today with Justin Fields that is all kinds of bad, and you can just tell why they're not a good football team and a franchise, and have never had a 4,000-yard passer in the history of their franchise. And then you think about the Minnesota Vikings, who just were, fool's gold last year, and how air quotes good they were in winning as many games as they did. They got knocked out by the G-men in that first round. They're frauds. Kirk Cousins might be a nice guy. His wife dresses him. That's fine. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. But their defense is so piss poor that they are never going to live up to their expectations. And until they change something fundamentally with getting some different personnel in there, getting a more dynamic quarterback, and I'm not blaming this all on Kirk Cousins because I don't believe it's Kirk Cousins. He gets a lot of the flack because quarterbacks do take a lot of that burden on their shoulders. But I just don't believe in the Vikings. I think this is the Lions of the Packers division to win this year.
Interesting. We are talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd. One more question for us before we let you go. I know you're driving. I know you're dealing with,
I'm not driving. I'm literally sitting here. I haven't moved since we started talking. I don't know what the hell is going on. This is the worst traffic I think I may have ever been in, and I lived in New York City.
Oh, well, but you sound like a Southern guy now, man. You have that accent. All right.
I've been here for like 6 years now, you know?
Y'all. Yeah, I know y'all. Yeah, but by the way, I was one of the guys that actually liked that move for Jordan Love. I'm probably one of the only guys that like the move for Jordan Love. I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's Brett Favre. But if he's just under them a little bit, he's still going to be a quality quarterback, and you're going to be able to win with him. So,
absolutely.
Yes, I think he's capable of doing that. Last question for us. When you look at the league as a whole, what has been the surprise so far early this season, and what do you think needs to change for some of these teams if they expect to win a Super Bowl?
What has been the surprise early on this season?
I think injuries. If you ask me, it's injuries.
Yeah, it is injuries. Injuries have been, but I mean, injuries happen. Like football is a 100% like injury rate. Like DeBrickashaw Ferguson was like the only guy who never got hurt ever in his NFL career, and just was always steadily playing. Injuries are obviously a big part of it. Let's go to the NFC East. Like I know the Eagles are 2-0 right now, but they haven't looked as dominant as I would anticipate them looking. And I've also been very disappointed by the Cleveland Browns. Like I know they're 1-1 and they beat Joe Burrow in week 1 and their defense was dominant, but that offense right now, and you mentioned injuries, Nick Chubb obviously going out is not going to help whatsoever. Deshaun Watson seems like an absolute shell of himself right now. So I'm really down on him. I do have some invested in him in fantasy, which I've been very disappointed that he has not put up any sort of production like he did in Houston. And maybe it's more difficult than we've realized to like take 2 years off of the NFL and come back and still be a really good player. And that's been a couple of my big takeaways. And then what was the second question you asked? Like, what do some teams have to do for playoffs?
Yes. What do they have to do? What do some of these teams have to do to make the playoffs and be a contender?
Well, I think really, and I think this is where injuries come in. I think like all of these teams go into the season, they have themselves a plan, and it's like the old saying of like everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And some of these teams, they get injuries and they just don't have the depth to replace them, and they're like, all right, we put all of our eggs in this basket, and like, okay, we know it's the next man up mentality, but it's not going to work the same way. Like we have to adjust on the fly. So it's just about these coaching staffs and these players being adjustable on the fly when things don't work out the way that they need to, or when injuries pop up. And I've always felt this way, that like it just seems like the teams that can get the healthiest towards the end of the year, or stay as healthy as they possibly can throughout the rest of the regular season, going into the postseason healthy, generally fare well. So it's just really taking care of themselves as players, as as athletes, and as people. Take care of themselves, because health is wealth in this league, as you guys just alluded to. And no team is going to absolutely avoid injuries, but like those teams that can stay healthy consistently and put together good football and just grow every step of the way, like try not to regress. Like I know sometimes it's going to be tough. It's a long season where you might have a real crappy game and you might take a step back, but then you got to push forward from that. So I would say that kind of is teams going through the season. Again, we're only 2 games in. We're going to week 3 this week. So very difficult to say in terms of playoffs right now. There's still a lot of season ahead of us. And I think I heard a stat today that like for all those teams that are 0-2 right now, there's only been one team. I don't remember what the stat was. Maybe the last 20 years, there's been like 99 teams and like only one team has made the playoffs after starting 0-3. So if you're 0-2, do not start 0-3. That is not a good omen.
Well, let's hope the New England Patriots go 0-3 this weekend. So we could only hope.
Let's hope so.
We got
the Jets to win.
Yes, but we really appreciate your time. Stay careful. Stay safe over there with all those crazy people. And we miss you here in New York. And we'll see y'all. Okay?
Yeah, we'll see y'all as well. I appreciate you guys having me as always.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure. I can't wait to jump on again with you guys.
Absolutely.
And actually be hopefully in person, like not in person, but like
I got
maybe
you.
in person or like on video. Like that would be great. Hopefully we'll be able to do that next time.
You know what we'll do? We'll have Speedy reach out to you in the next month or two, and we'll get you on in the next month or two, and we'll talk a little sports with you.
Sounds good, fellas. Appreciate the time as always. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully the Jets will figure it out.
Now, let's hope. Greg, thank you. Oh, man. At least he's a Packer fan. At least he has something to look forward to. As a Jet fan, you have nothing to look forward to. Just absolutely just disaster. As we saw 4 plays in the beginning of the season when Aaron Rodgers went down. But as everybody knows, we were just talking to ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd, a New York native who moved down south and is talking like a Southern man. But I'm happy to have him on, and we love him. He's a great person, a great personality. When we come back, I know it's been a little bit late, but we have him on. We will be talking to former Giants guard Rich Seubert here on the Sports Loudmouth.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, like, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, as you know. This is the Sports Loudmouth here only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth, every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Tune into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network and check out the list on the menu bar on our website. All you have to do, again, is go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. If you want to call the show, we don't have Jeff calling the show anymore, which is absolutely fantastic. No more of the craziness, but I do like crazy. 631-672-3108. Thank you to Greg Larnerd for joining us. And now, for the first time on our show, we are now talking to former Giants guard, Rich Seubert, Super Bowl champion, Rich Seubert. Rich, what's up, man?
I'm doing great. Hey, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys, right? Talk a little bit about Giants and hopefully not the Jets like the last guy.
First of all, buddy, I am a Jet fan. He is a Giant fan. But nevertheless, I understand we've had Brandon on, and Brandon loves to attack me in every kind of way because he hates the Jets. And he loves the Eagles, actually loves the Eagle fans. I've never heard this. He hates the Cowboy fans, but loves the Eagle fans. But he's a Giant. So it never made any sense to me when I was interviewed quite a few times. Brandon Jacobs, by the way, Brandon might be owing me nice, wonderful tickets to the Jets and Giants game in Week 8. So that's just another thing. But, Rich, how are you doing since your time playing football? What have you been doing since you retired?
Listen, guys, I got into coaching high school football. So I live in New Jersey, coach at Watchung Hills. I love it out here. I love coaching the kids. I don't teach in the school. I'm pretty much retired, and I just get to coach 13 to 18-year-old boys. And
wow.
We get after it on the field. I love it. I love being part of the game. I love helping these kids out. I love the win, but I love the kids having a good experience over winning.
You look like a coach. You do. There's just something about you. But, hey, listen, when you're coached by Tom Coughlin all those years, you have to look like a coach. And Tommy First of all, we've been to a couple of his events. He's a fantastic person. He raises a lot of money throughout his foundations, and he's fantastic. Him and his kids are unbelievable, and his wife, fantastic. But what was it like, obviously, playing for Tom Coughlin?
I loved it, right? He demanded the most out of you. Obviously, you had to be on time, if not 5 minutes early. But Tom was honest. He got after it, and he held you accountable, right? And I think that's what you want as a coach. And if you did something wrong, he let you know it, but he also showed you love when you needed it. So Coach is a great man, a great coach. I love him, and I love playing for him. And I don't speak to him enough, but when I do get the chance to speak to him, it's always fun catching back up with him.
So with the controversy that he had with a lot of players, Tiki Barber, obviously that's why he retired. Michael Strahan, we've heard about that too. Was that as big, like behind the scenes, like in the locker room, as the media blew it up to be at the time?
Listen, Michael just needed to show up 5 minutes early, right? I didn't have Michael's money to show up on time. I had to come early, but it wasn't a distraction, right? I think Coach grew, over the years, and he was still a strict, stern coach, but he saw the other side of things. He held everybody the same way. Like, he didn't care if you were Michael Strahan or me, right? He was gonna do the same thing to both of us. So I think that's what I respected the most. Work hard, right? Like work hard, and we all wanted to win, right? So it made a good combo.
Yeah, Rich loves to win. Everything that comes out of Rich's mouth in a sentence is win.
Win.
Be happy, but win. As everybody knows, we are talking to former Giants guard Rich Seubert. Rich, 2007 was a fantastic year for the New York Giants. A lot of people thought you were in playoff contenders. You play the Patriots at the end of the season. You sneak into the playoffs and you make this run. And then you play the undefeated New England Patriots, the fantastic talent of obviously Moss and Brady and Belichick and Will Fork and whatever that team was producing. They were throwing out, strikes. What were your thoughts going into the season? What were your thoughts going into the playoffs and have to playing that undefeated New England Patriot team if you made it to the Super Bowl?
You know what I'm going to say, right? You just said it.
I know what you're going to say.
We're going to win. Petey, we're going to win, man. No, I think every season everybody's got the same shot, right? You start the season off, and if you don't have high expectations, what's the point of playing, right? Mm-hmm. I think every team starts the season off thinking you're going to win the Super Bowl. We started off 0-2, which you guys just talked about too with the last guy, right? We went to Washington, and we had a goal line stand to beat them, which going 0-3 is tough. So we found a way to win that game, and then from there it seemed like we were the road warriors, right? We won all of our games on the road. We didn't do well at home, which I don't know why. People always say, "Hey, how come that year you only won a couple of home games?" I don't know why, right? But once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen, right? It doesn't matter how you get in them, right? Once you get in them, whoever's playing the best at that time is going to have a shot. And we went to Tampa, went to Dallas, went to Green Bay, and we beat New England. It was a tough road, but I think I wouldn't want any other way. I think that last game playing against the Patriots, and we played them at the end of the season that year, and we played them tough. It was a shootout.
You almost won that game.
We did. And, now looking back at it, I'm kind of glad we didn't win that game, right? Because who knows how the next one would have went. But me personally, I never cared about who I was playing against. I just cared about the number of the guy and what he did. And I think that was kind of our attitude that year is no matter who came out of that tunnel, we were going to give it our best and have a shot to win that game.
So on that offensive line, which was a loaded offensive line, David Deal, Chris Snee, McKenzie, Sean O'Hara, earlier.
McKenzie, a Jets draft pick.
Yeah, Jets draft pick, and then he made the right decision to stay in New York but go elsewhere.
McKenzie now, by the way, Dr. McKenzie.
Dr. McKenzie. I'm sorry.
So who was the biggest best personality, the funny guy on the team, and who was the biggest trash talker of those group?
I don't think none of us trash talked. I think being an offensive lineman, you just do your own job and you talk to each other in that huddle and figure things out. But I think we actually we had a pretty good relationship, right? We all like to have some fun, and we picked on Eli and Eli picked on us, and vice versa, pretty much the entire year. But that's the way our group was, right? I always tell people you don't mess with guys you don't like, right? You only mess with your buddies, and I can't tell you the stuff we did to each other that year, but some guys would probably get arrested for it today. But O'Hara, right? He always liked to
love him, by the way.
Right? Yeah, I love him too. Right? We all love Sean. He's got the pretty blue eyes.
Thin now. He's thin. He lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, him and Snead, they can't be they can't be happy, right? Like, there's no way you're happy and that skinny. So, and Deal, I played next to Deal for all those years, and he's coaching down in Memphis now. So, we just played well together, right? Like, obviously, Snead was, I think Snead's a Hall of Famer, and he's in the Ring of Honor. He was a hell of a football player. Sean made the Pro Bowl a couple years, even the year he, got hurt, and I played center the entire year. He still made the Pro Bowl for some reason. But we played well together, right? Like, it was 5 guys working as one. We knew what we needed help with and what the other guy needed help with, and we got the job done.
As everybody knows, we are talking to former Giants guard Rich Seubert. You know him as the starting left guard of the Super Bowl 2007 champions, New York Giants. So Michael Strahan is a very interesting personality. I've met him a couple of times. Funny as hell. He seems like he's the life of the party. Wherever he goes with the smile, he knows how to bring people to him. What was it like playing with Michael Strahan?
I loved it. Ultimate captain, right? Ultimate leader. He found a way to get us going, even when we didn't think we could do it ourselves. He always had something to say to motivate us. I look back to my rookie year. I was an undrafted free agent from Western Illinois University. And when you come in as a young guy that nobody knows, they just stick you somewhere on the O-line just to make up that third team. So I was third team right tackle. And being a third team right tackle, I got to go against the first team defensive end, Michael Strahan. So, I learned a lot those first couple of weeks, and whenever I had chances to go against them. But what I liked about Michael is he always grabbed me to the side and coached me up, right? Gave me some pointers about how I could do it better and how I was tipping off the plays. And I think that's the ultimate teammate, right? Somebody that could kick your ass, but then come over and tell you how to do it better and make me better as a player, make me better as a person. And to help me to have the long career that I had. Like, he was one of the guys in practice that was coaching me up, which is pretty cool about Mike.
So 3 months ago, we actually had your offensive line coach for the first 3 years of your career on our show, and Jim McNally. Really funny
Fantastic guy.
Tremendous stories that he was telling from his coaching days, both with the Giants and all the other teams. And
Mighty Mouse, right?
Too.
Mighty Mouse?
Yes. So what was he like?
Yeah, the Mouse. I love Coach Mouse. Coming in as that young kid from a 1AA school, I learned a lot of technique from Coach McNally, and it's funny. I still text him to this day, and I'll call him when I can. He still lives up in Buffalo. I got a little lake house up there. I promised him I'll come and buy him lunch whenever I get back. Awesome coach, right? He was a technique guy, and he would develop new stuff for us. But he would be a guy where, hey, let's try this today, and if you don't like it, we'll throw it out, right? And I'm like, well, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do, because I'm young. I have no clue what I'm doing, so I'm going to listen to you. But awesome guy to grow up with my first couple of years. I was blessed with 2 great offensive line coaches in Mouse, Coach McNally and Coach Flaherty. I really, truly believe both of those coaches made me the player I was.
And then there's Eli Manning, who a lot of people, there are a lot of Giant fans that didn't like him. There were Giant fans that absolutely worship him, and probably one of the greatest quarterbacks, was the greatest quarterback in New York Giants history, but one of the greatest quarterbacks of this era. People don't realize it because they don't really see the numbers for what they were. What was it like playing with Eli? Was he really that funny in the huddle like he is with Peyton on his TV show?
When he had to be, he was, right? When Eli was, is what you see is what you get, right? That's Eli Manning in the locker room. That's Eli Manning when you go out to dinner. That's Eli Manning when you're peeing next to him. A place in Albany, right? And your shoes getting wet. But he was always calm, right? No matter what he did. If he threw a touchdown pass or threw a pick, he never got too high. He never got too low. And I think you just feed off of that as a player, right? If you see your quarterback either have a bad play or a great play, and he just keeps his head, right? It made when you messed up, you wanted to protect Eli, right? He was a pocket passer. We had to keep him in the pocket. He didn't scramble well. But awesome guy, right? Great father. What I like is my youngest daughter, my only daughter, and his oldest are about the same age. So we cross paths in basketball, and he coaches that basketball team. I think he got kicked out of coaching. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But But it's fun, right? Because now that we're both grown, now we're growing up, I can say that, right? And our kids are playing each other. It's pretty cool, right? To sit back and say, hey, that was my quarterback, and now our kids are playing against each other, and he's still the same guy in the stands, right? He claps, he cheers, but he never gets too excited, he never gets too down.
So I want to ask about the NFC East rivalries, because we were talking about the Cowboys in the playoffs in 2007. The Eagles were very feisty as well. And Washington, what was those rivalries like? Were they very intense, like what we've heard over the years?
They were. I really don't like any of the three. Like you said, Brandon can, the Eagles fans and stuff. I really despise of the Eagles. I broke my leg playing against the Eagles. They beat me in the playoffs. They beat me some other games. I don't like them. They don't like us. I loved going to the play, right? I still remember a story. What game was it? I forgot what year, but Akers was their kicker. He kicks the ball off, and I don't know if Brandon brought the story up, but he was running down the sideline, and he went after Charles Way, who was just the player development guy. Hit him on the sideline. But then Brandon and Luke Pettigrew literally picked up Akers and slammed him to the ground and beat the crap out of him for a few. And nobody knew what was going on, right? We were out on defense, and there goes, or we were on offense, and Akers is hobbling across the field to go back to his sideline. They don't like us. We don't like them. That was always a fun game. Dallas, they're a step right above or below Philly, however you want to look at it. Once again, we don't like each other, right? And I think the last couple of years, Giants fans really hate the Cowboys because we've been pretty bad against both of those teams. And Washington, it seems like we still do pretty good against Washington. So they're my least disliked, I guess, is the oh my gosh, I was going to say Redskins. What the heck? What are they?
Commanders.
Commanders. Right? It's hard. It's hard to say that when you played against them for all those years.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to play for a guy named Schneider. So I'm sure a lot of those players are probably, shaking their heads now that, well, they're actually happy that Harris is running the organization now. But nevertheless, Schneider was an absolute idiot. But that's just my opinion. We were talking to former Giants guard Rich Seubert. Last question for me, Rich. I know you're a busy guy. When you look at the league now, you look at the Giants, and you have Daniel Jones. And a lot of people compare Daniel Jones to Eli Manning. Maybe he doesn't have the arm strength like Eli, but his composure, his confidence in the pocket. Obviously, he's a running quarterback more than a throwing quarterback. Do you see this Giant team now as something to be compared to of the 2007 or maybe even the 2011 New York Giants?
That's hard to say, right? I think I like Danny Jones. I think he's a better athlete than Eli is, and Eli probably had a better arm, but Danny can run a little better. I think the offensive line is still developing and growing together as a unit. Obviously, when Barkley's healthy, he's one of the better guys in the league, but he's banged up right now, and they finally got some weapons on the outside, and the defense with the way they blitz and get after it, right? It's a different style of football, it looks like, but before the season, I said the Giants 10-6, 10-7, 9-8, right? So maybe we can still get there after the first 2 weeks. After halftime yesterday, I think I texted all my buddies, said I'm going to find a new team to root for, but they flipped the switch, right? And they found a way to win that game, and it sucks to go 0-2. And if they would have lost that game, by a few touchdowns, it would have been miserable this week playing on Thursday night against San Fran, right? So they found a way to get a win. They got some tough ones coming up.
But that's the way you guys were. I mean, you guys found a way to win, and the Giants found a way to win to make the playoffs last year, and they went on a run. They knocked off a Minnesota Vikings team, and then they played a very good Eagles team. And who knows if they could have gotten over the hump over there, they could have went to the NFC title and maybe go to the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Football's weird.
It doesn't matter how you win, right? Just find a win. I don't care. Shoot, I'm a coach now, so I always tell Mike, I don't care if I win 3-0 or 42-40, right? I'll win, and I'll take them all I get. But I'm excited for them. I watch them. I got season tickets, right? I sit in the end zone. I watch the games with my kids. And
you do one of those? You're like one of those? There I am. I'm here. I'm here. I've got my ring. Go screw yourself.
I'm going to trip that Eagles fan, have my son push him down the steps, but we don't. But that's kind of what I want to do every time I see a different fan. But I don't. I sit there and I tell people to shut up sometimes, but we're good.
I got to go to a Giants game with you.
You have to sit in the end zone, right? our end zone. I like the end zone view, and it's good. I have some good season ticket holders around me, so it's a good group of fans. And when people sell their tickets to the opposing fans, I just want to rip their hearts out. But that's life.
My last question: your favorite block or favorite play of your career, individual, and who was the toughest defensive lineman you ever played against?
We have like a favorite block. My favorite block was we were on Monday Night Football back in the day, right? And I got circled by John Madden, right? And I got like a boom or something. So I pulled out in front of Tiki, where I ran down the field and I took somebody out, and Tiki scored a touchdown. And John Madden saying my name on TV when I was young and circling me and giving me the boom. I thought that was pretty cool. The toughest D lineman, they're all good, right? Like I was an undersized, undrafted left guard, so everybody I went against was a pretty good player. Albert Hainsworth, right? When he was in Tennessee, before he got paid all that money in Washington,
Schneider.
He was a big, fast human being that was tough to block, right? And but there's so much. Like my rookie year, I went against. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget names. I'm getting old. We played San Fran the first week of the season, right? And it was Bryant and Stubblefield, right? The 2D tackles who in their 15th year playing, and I'm a rookie. So I remember those guys because I was young, and that was my first experience of going against a live bullets in real games. But I'd say Hainsworth just because of his size and his speed. He was a big boy.
Before we let you go, has the team, the 2007 Giants, gotten together and hung out and shoot the what with each other? Have you guys met up and just talk about that wonderful championship run that you guys had?
We get together, right? We all have our lives with our kids and our wives. Like I'm in Jersey, and a lot of the guys are still in New Jersey. So, like the O-line and Eli, we get to go out to dinner, like not as often as we should, but we have like a running text message, just like high school kids, and we talk shit at pretty much every week about, especially like O'Hara being on TV or, a picture of somebody on Instagram. Like we'll make fun of each other pretty much on a daily basis.
Eli's the star right now. Omaha, he's got his production company. He's on with his brother all the time. They're hilarious. I have to say that. I would have never thought that ESPN would have them on multiple years, and they're like killing it. And every single Monday I'll pop them on, and Peyton and him sitting there and just making jokes and cracking jokes. It's hilarious. It really is.
I can't believe he stays up that late, right? That pretty late for those two guys, but it is good. I watch them too. Once in a while I'll be like, I'm just sick of hearing his voice, so I'll flick it over to the other station. I think it's pretty cool watching those guys in ESPN. Like they give you pretty right when they're actually talking football and X's and O's and they're drawing up plays. Like I always said they both should coach, and then Eli should have coached football somewhere, or been a GM or something, or owned a team, because I think him and his brother could probably do pretty well in the league.
Well, they made enough money, so they can buy their own team.
They don't want the headaches, right?
You know what you should do, Rich? You should go to Eli and say, "Listen, you've made a couple $100 million. Throw me a couple. I was your guy."
Or we need new lights at our football field at the high school. I'm like, dude, can you just buy me some lights? Like, like $10 out of your pocket, right? It's not a big deal.
Did you see the Omaha contract that they got? Oh my God, they're racking in more money now than they were as football players.
Sauce, I see like Eli was doing the hot sauce stuff on Twitter and shit,
yeah,
right?
It's hilarious, yeah,
and all that stuff. But it's great, right? Like Eli's Eli. I'm proud of him. I'm glad he was my quarterback.
Well, we're glad that you joined us. We'd love to get you on again. I know you're a very busy guy. It's football season. Keep up the good work. Win a championship, because it's all about winning, right? It's all about winning.
Having fun and winning, yes. But you have more.
Well, Rich, that's not what you said, man. You said win first, have fun second. So
that's first, have fun second, right? Come on. You're my Giants fan. Let's go.
Yes. Win first, have fun second. Hopefully the Giants can take that mantra on this very difficult schedule.
And as a Jet fan, lose first and lose second.
And then force your way out of there.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Rich Seubert, fantastic. He really is a funny guy, too. It's so funny. We should have the whole offensive line on the show and Eli. That would be interesting, having all these guys and just going back and forth and asking them questions. I'm sure every single one of them will be making fun of each other.
Oh, believe me, I've reached out to David Deal a lot too to try to get him on for sure.
We definitely got to get David on because David is an interesting character. I watched him. He did the Sunday show with what's his name again on WFAN. I can't believe I forgot his name. But he was doing the Sunday show, and he's interesting. He could definitely coach, and he's coaching in Memphis now, right?
Yeah, he's a Memphis coach. I'm proud of him. Right? He got down there a couple years ago, and he loves it. So I'm happy for Dave.
Well, I'm happy for you, man. You keep up the good work, and we will reach out to you very, very soon. And hopefully your Giants make the playoffs. I hope not, because I'm a Jet fan. But nevertheless, whoever wins the Jets-Giants game this year will – hopefully it's the Jets because, Brandon Jacobs owes me tickets, okay? Because if the Jets have a better record than the Giants by the time Week 8 comes around, then he has to take me and Speedy out to a – luxurious dinner and take us out to the Giant and Jet game. And if the Giants have a better record than the Jets, I have to take him and his son and Speedy out to a luxurious dinner and take them out to the Giants and Jets game.
His son's an offensive lineman too.
5-star offensive lineman.
His kid's legit. I will drive so I can eat the free meal when you guys go on this dinner. Hey,
we love you, man. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Rich Seubert. He's funny, man.
Yes, he is.
He's very funny.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've met a lot of these guys. I met Sean O'Hara a couple of times. Very nice, very funny. They're definitely, I could see why they got along and why they were successful. Because if you look at what this team was about, it wasn't about winning. It was about camaraderie. And what they did in 2007 and 2011 was incredible. And even as a Jet fan who I couldn't stand the Giants, the fact that they played the Patriots in those years in the Super Bowl, I was rooting for the Giants. I did not want to see the New England Patriots win. I didn't care if it was the Giants, even though I hate them too. It was the worst Super Bowl you possibly could watch as a Jet fan.
That was my equivalent with the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl. I had to root for the Patriots. I'm like, I wanted to leave the Eagles with 0 rings.
I couldn't stand watching it. But nevertheless, I was rooting for the Giants. And when they won, I was happy for them. I really was, because it's New York, and New York is New York, even though as a Jet fan, you wouldn't want to see the Giants win again. But that's a whole nother story. We will get into the Giannis story tomorrow because I do have a lot to say about it, and the James Dolan and the Shohei Ohtani story. It is a lot, and I want to make sure that we give it enough time to talk about it. And we're at 10 o'clock right now, so we're not going to get it in. And we had a great show. By the way, thank you to obviously our friend, ESPN Chattanooga radio show host, Greg Larnerd. He was fantastic. Thank you. I know he was busy and he was stuck in traffic, and he's got that, that hick, Southern accent now, hospitality. Yes. And then Rich Seubert, who is also busy coaching and doing his thing. We're very happy to have him on, and we'd love to have him on again. Very funny too, by the way.
Yes.
Fantastic. But thank you to them. So we're just going to do bracket wars tonight. And tomorrow we'll get into all the other stuff, and we'll do our picks tomorrow. And who do we have on tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have at 7:30 the magician that you introduced to Josh Pele.
Now he is a sports magician. He does a lot of events with a lot of athletes. He's worked with some of the best athletes, football players in the country, basketball players, hockey players. He's been around everybody, and he's a magician, fantastic magician.
Yep. Out of New Jersey, Josh Pele. He will be joining us at 7:30, and then returning to the show at 8 o'clock, Eric Eager, NFL analyst. He used to be with Pro Football Focus the last time we had him on the show. Now with a different company, Sumer Sports. He actually does a show with ex-Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff.
Oh, he was a good GM at one point.
GM,
he drafted Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of good draft picks on that Falcons team. Then they just ended up getting cash drafts,
and they choked in the Super Bowl. And Dimitroff, after that, lost his job.
Yeah, a couple of years later when they had a lot of big contracts and couldn't keep all of them.
Mm-hmm. All right, Speedy, let's go.
All right, our finals for Bracket Wars. Mariano Rivera versus Martin Brodeur.
It's time for Bracket.
Bracket.
It's time for Bracket Wars.
So both number 1 seeds. Who will take the crown?
All right, Martin Brodeur, the number 1 seed on one side of the panel. Brodeur had 691 wins, 125 shutouts, a 2.24 goals against average, and a 912 save percentage in 22 NHL seasons. Brodeur was a 7-time All-Star, a 5-time Jennings Trophy winner, a 4-time Vezina Trophy winner, a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, and a member of the NHL's 100th anniversary all-time team. Brodeur has 28 different goaltending records and milestones in his career. Brodeur has faced the most shots in NHL history with 31,709 and has the most total saves in history, 28,928. In 205 playoff games, Brodeur had 113 wins and a goals against of 2.02 and a save percentage of 919. Arguably the greatest goaltender ever to play. Was the face of the New Jersey Devils. He was everything that you wanted for a championship type of goaltender. And honestly, he was the clutchest when it came to winning championships in the playoffs.
Right. His playoff numbers are insane, too. There's so many records, like you said, 28 that are probably never going to be broken with how little these goalies play today, how much them take on the workload today, too. That had to be able to do that. In eras of hockey, like you said, the 90s hockey is very tough. Adjusting to the 2000s, that became a lot of offense, and he still put up stellar goaltending seasons.
Mariano Rivera, the number 1 seed on the other side of the bracket. Rivera had 652 saves and most in MLB history, which was 51 saves more than the next highest, Trevor Hoffman. Rivera is the all-time leader in total games, finished with 952, and is the all-time leader in ERA plus at 205 amongst both starters and relievers. Rivera was a 13-time All-Star, a 5-time reliever of the year, and won both the ALCS MVP and the World Series MVP as part of the 5-time Yankee championship teams. Despite never winning a Cy Young, he finished in the top 5 of the voting 5 times during his career. In 96 career playoff games, Rivera had 42 saves, a 0.7 ERA, a 0.76 whip, and 110 strikeouts. The greatest pitcher to ever play in professional baseball history. I'm talking about starters. I'm talking about relievers. This guy was the best. 20 years of dominance with one pitch. You heard it. One pitch, the cut fastball, and nobody could hit him. He broke so many bats, and he was doing it for 20 years and dominant. And nobody will have career playoff numbers like that. 42 saves, a 0.7 ERA, and a 0.76 whip, and 110 strikeouts. You're talking about absolute dominance. Dominance as a pitcher.
Right. And the single greatest pitch, a ERA, advanced statistics that are off the charts, and in a ballpark in Yankee Stadium that everyone complains about, oh, it's so easy to hit a home run there. Well, not off Mariano Rivera. I think there's only 5 players in MLB history, like facing Mariano Rivera, that have homered twice off of him. Like, that is a crazy stat in itself, too, when you're facing all these teams for all those years, too. So it's a battle of 2 very good athletes here, 2 of the best of their position. I have to go with Brodeur, though, because I think goaltending is a little harder to do because you don't control as much. And I think that doing it for that long is hard.
I'm going with Mariano Rivera. I think Mariano Rivera was the most dominant pitcher of all time, and no doubt in this era, and he did it with one pitch. You could say goaltending's hard. He did it with one pitch against the greatest hitters of this era. I mean, fantastic player. Martin Brodeur was a fantastic player too, but I think Mariano doing it one pitch, that's the dominance, that's the number, and that's what stands out to me the most.
All righty, so the Twitter polls will decide the winner of the tri-state area brackets.
And we'll announce it next week, ladies and gentlemen, who wins the tri-state, greatest New York player of this era. So it'll be interesting. We'll see where everything falls. But thank you again to Chattanooga radio show host, ESPN Chattanooga radio show host Greg Larnerd, friend of the show, fantastic, New York native, but now Southern accent native. But we love him. Thank you, and we'll get him on the show again. And thank you to ex-Giants guard Rich Seubert, Super Bowl champion in 2007, was a big part of that offensive line, a dominant offensive line in 2007. So, and he was a big part of it. So thank you to Rich. I know he's a busy guy. He's coaching. He's got kids, and he's going to the Giant games, screaming at Eagle fans and pushing people down the stairs. So yeah. Thank you to him. But we will be back tomorrow. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a great show. We'll get everything in. We'll get the James Dolan story in. We'll get the Shohei Ohtani story in. We'll get the Giannis story, which is starting to grow legs with the New York Knicks. It seems like if Giannis does become available, the Knicks will be one of the favorites to get him. And Giannis obviously wants to play in a place where he can build his name and build his brand. And New York, why not? The biggest place and the biggest city in the world. So a place that he would play. I can guarantee you that. His brother played here for a little while, and the Knicks drafted him. So it'll be interesting moving forward, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, this is Aaron Marks and Speedy Petey and the Sports Loudmouth saying good night. And we'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls.